Welcome everybody to episode 8 of Real Time. My name is Ryan, and with me as always is the Lumberg to my Milton, Robbie.
The Lumberg to your Milton. Wow.
I could have gone Peter, but I thought I'd probably do a better Milton impression.
That's probably true. But then, I don't want to be Lumberg. That's...
Alright, take your pick.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd rather be Peter than Lumberg.
Yeah, alright. The Peter to my Milton.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Much appreciated.
We've been away for a while. Winter's come and hit us hard, so we've been sick, amongst other things.
I've been off very horribly this week. You've been off before, plus work and usual things. So it's taken a little bit longer than expected, and then it also means we've got a heck of a lot to talk about.
So we'll jump straight into it, shall we?
Yeah, so I'll come in on Saturday.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, we'll start things off with, there's apparently a new Hunger Games book or books and movies coming out as well.
What?
I don't know why you want to.
I haven't even seen the last of them. I have to admit this. I've seen all the Hunger Games except for the last one. I actually liked them. I thought they were good.
I've only seen the first.
They're good. I think it's told what it's needed to. I don't prequel series. If you're going to do it, a book, yeah, okay, or a comic or something cool, whatever. But I don't see the point of turning into movies. Probably they were successful what they were, and that was it.
Yeah.
Does the cast want to come back and do stuff that's prequels? What's the point? Is it unrelated characters?
Yeah, they'll probably be too old, I'd imagine, too, depending on when the books / movies come out.
Now it's getting this whole thing where you start de-aging everyone as well, which is just becoming a thing. And we'll come to that because there's a few things to talk about that later on. I've just remembered another thing I haven't added that came out today, but it will come up in conversation anyway. But it is just one of those things. We'll just keep moving because there's so much stuff to talk about.
So there was a tweet that I saw which was quite funny. Was I think Sam Neill mentioned something about one of his ducks that he had for a long time that just didn't want to fly at all, and then one day he took it down to his little lakefront area and it just started flying off, and he just seems so happy about it. So Ryan Reynolds, being Ryan Reynolds, retweeted him. He's like, "Can you be my father?" to Sam Neill, and I think Sam Neill to probably most New Zealanders would be an ideal sort of father figure. He just seems like that kind of person.
Well, but the thing is, I think of like a curmudgeony kind of grumpy Hunt for the Wilderpeople. Yeah. Sam Neill is still pretty good.
Still pretty good, yeah.
But yeah, I totally can see that. I hadn't seen this at all. So when I saw you'd written this down, I was like, "What the hell were they talking about ducks for?"
Yeah,
and I was like, "Ryan Reynolds going to just sell some gin?" I don't know.
Well, it could have been that too. I mean, they could have been cross promoting the gin and the wine.
That's true. Yeah, Two Paddocks and
maybe they did that as well.
Aviation gin. Yeah. Cool. All right, nice.
Is it Taika Waititi animated Flash Gordon film? How do you feel about that?
I don't know. Taika's kind of stretching himself really thin, kind of.
At the moment.
We'll come back to that too. He's got Jojo Rabbit coming. He's got new announcements. Something that he was attached has been pushed back, and he's dropped out of the Bubbles thing about Michael Jackson's chimpanzee.
That's right.
I think if he's just show producing, I think that's probably the idea, and maybe a little script input. And he's still doing What We Do in the Shadows and a little bit on Wellington Paranormal as well. So it's like he's a busy man.
Hollywood's definitely come calling for him, which is good.
Yeah, definitely. Well. Cool. Whatever makes sense.
So there's a new Sherlock Holmes film coming out with Henry Cavill.
I don't.
How do we feel about that?
I don't know. Like there's this, and then there's going to be another Sherlock Holmes, which we'll also get to, but like I don't know. I don't know. I'm not.
Is he going to be a bearded Henry Cavill like Mission Impossible, or is he going to have
where he reloads his arms again?
Yeah, is he going to have reloaded arms, or is he just going to have the beard because he's contractually obligated to, and then have it CGI'd off and look terrible?
I don't know. I don't see the point. We've had too many Sherlock Holmes, and we just need a break from Sherlock Holmes films for a while. I think Henry Cavill, sure, great. I would like to see another. Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie. Yeah. I really like that. He was good in that. Him and oh my gosh, the name's going blank. The Armie Hammer. Yeah, really good. I really like that. I'd rather see that over another Sherlock Holmes. Cavill's also been cast in the Witcher series. Obviously, everyone's known this for a while, and they showed the trailer, and everyone's relatively positive. To me, the hype point is more like, oh well, this is cool. This might be it's a very well known series, and it'll be a replacement for your Game of Thrones fans. But people seem to like it for what it is, not because of Game of Thrones. I know that's no disparaging either thing. And people still can't get past the wig, but generally seem quite happy with him being cast in the role. So
it depends on if it's going to fall into the same video game movie trope.
Well, it's a book. It's a book series first, so that's essentially it.
Oh, that's possibly right,
so that kind of helps. But yeah, I think they're going to definitely have some video gamey references because the game series is just as well known. We'll see.
I'd say there'd probably definitely be the Easter eggs for the book nerds and for the video game players as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Disney being Disney, wanting to make live-action versions of all of their movies, if you can count Lion King as that, which we'll come back to.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that.
Yeah. I think this is pretty much confirmed, probably about 90% confirmed. I haven't double-checked, but Melissa McCarthy has been cast in The Little Mermaid as Ursula.
Yeah, I can see this. It makes sense. It totally makes sense.
She seems like the kind of, her personality would be good for the character.
Yeah, she can do this, and she's been doing a lot lately is stretching past her. She's known as that, the comedian. She's been in a lot more dramatic roles too, and getting really good acclaim for them too for these roles. So,
and maybe just a villain is what she needs.
Yeah, it's possible. Just another thing to do. Obviously, it was in the only casting role as well. There was the actual Little Mermaids being cast. I'm going to let you explain this because
so there was Halle Bailey, not Berry, has been cast as the Little Mermaid as well. So I think we've got 2 out of however many of the main characters there are.
I think they've talked about who they're going to cast as a prince, but it hasn't been confirmed. But I don't remember who the name is. And then I remember the reason I just was going to say about the Berry thing was real funny because I saw Halle Berry tweeted congratulations to her for getting the role.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people initially were like, who's Halle Bailey?
Yeah.
So they were mistweeting to Halle Berry going, why you in Little Mermaid? And they didn't actually do their research.
Exactly. Unsurprisingly, a little bit of controversy over the fact it's we're changing the skin tone, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I think the only thing that's going to be interesting is the hair colour. I said this to someone else just recently.
They're going to make it a red hair.
Red hair, because that's I think to me is more iconic than skin tone. Who cares about skin tone? Is it going to be coloured hair, and what colour will it be? That's more interesting to me.
Yeah, we'll soon find out.
But again, I'm not exactly on the Disney bandwagon thing anyway. So as you know,
there was news from I guess the TV world about a Bob's Burgers movie in 2020, which I think that's been on the cards for a while now, but it's just been down to Comedy Central and I think Fox. I think it's under.
It's funny that you
sort of mentioning.
You didn't write this down here, but I just remember there's been a lot of movie discussions again, like Family Guy, Simpsons, all this stuff, and especially now that it's all by Disney,
especially after Comic Con, which we'll get back to as well.
Yeah, it's an obvious thing.
Yeah, I mean, TV, cartoon.
McFarlane said, we're still doing Family Guy. Groening said, there's going to be another Simpsons movie planned. It's always on the
still
card.
Several in the cards, but they just need to pull finger.
Especially as it gets older and older, they're kind of missing the point of all of this, and it's not just Bob Burgers, everything, I'm not a fan of the show, but I don't watch that much animated stuff anymore. I'm sure it'd be great for fans. Can't say anything more.
No, we'll definitely see what happens with that as well. So recently, you, myself, and my girlfriend Anne have sat down and watched Gremlins, I think, as well as... Who else was there? The rest of the flat as well, I think.
Most of the rest
most of the flat as well. We sat down and watched the Gremlins movie.
Yeah. Anne had never seen this. This is what we established. Yeah. This is why it came up. She sent you a picture of one of the Gremlins from Gremlins 2, and I said... You haven't even seen that movie. How can you use that?
How can you get the reference? Yeah.
But I mean, it worked in the context, I guess. It was just a crazy gremlin.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, you have to watch it now. So now I'm telling her that she has to watch the second one. But the reason when we talk about this is that there's going to be a prequel TV series, 10 episodes, animated, which explains how Gizmo got to where he was before Gremlins and what had happened. I
suppose other details about him as well.
Yeah, and the old man and... all that sort of stuff. I can take it or leave it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting with that. So it's called Secrets of the Mogwai. So it'll definitely tell you more backstory, I suppose.
I wonder if it can explain the rules properly.
Yeah, because I think I said this the other day. Like technically, any time you feed them is after midnight.
Yeah,
but is it between midnight and say 6 a.m.?
I think the sunrise thing would have been a good caveat to that. Like you can't feed them after midnight until the sun has risen. That would have been a much more sensible option. But hey, and as I said, they make good jokes out of it in the sequel.
Yeah,
it's always midnight somewhere. Yeah.
So now I heard.
What if he gets something stuck in his teeth and it pops out? When he crosses a date line.
And he can just sort of chew on it like that little bit of food that gets stuck. Now, I'd heard something on the radio which was quite surprising to me when I was driving home from work one day that apparently, Lady Diana, who was a big fan of the original Bodyguard movie. Apparently, when I think the producers and other people at the studio found out about this, they had an idea where she would be in a sequel to The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner playing a similar role to Whitney Houston in the first one, which I was like, wow,
I'd seen
coulda, shoulda, woulda.
I'd seen this too. It would have been a really interesting scenario. It's so interesting because I think at the time, had you done it, you would have definitely done it where that was the role. But nowadays, if you did something like that with someone, it would be a cameo, I want to say.
Yeah.
It would be like the start of the movie, you have this reveal where you think it's going to be the characters from the first movie, and it's just one of them, and it's actually him being the bodyguard for Princess Diana. She's just in it for one scene.
Yeah, and then he's got to deal with
something else
going on. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
But back then they wouldn't have done that. You just didn't do that. If you got some name like that for some reason, I don't know how far it progressed. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you heard or read.
No, this pretty much it. There was not much details.
So obviously it was just an idea, and then never really progressed. But yeah, it probably would have been the whole. That would have been the whole thing. That's it. Like that's the general gist. It's like he's moved up to looking after princesses and stuff.
Yeah, some sort of important royal, I suppose. Yeah.
A royal, yeah,
royal, same sort of vein.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make a joke, but it's kind of like the absurdity of like the Jared Butler movies, the Angel Has Fallen, and
that's right.
Yeah. They just get more ridiculous because you can't keep having him save just the president, so he saves like other people and other new president, and now he's framed.
He's got to save himself.
He's got to save himself. He's framed for killing the president and a bunch of guys, but he hasn't killed the president. It gets that past that leap. You get past one movie. Like, did The Bodyguard need a sequel? No, the original Bodyguard was a movie in of itself. I'm glad it didn't happen in that respect.
It's probably good. So now, in local New Zealand news, there's the Amazon Lord of the Rings show is to film here. Which is good. Like I'd originally heard reports that it was going to go to Scotland, and
I heard that too.
New Zealand people weren't too happy.
I don't know if it's what's been confirmed. Either way, I saw then all of a sudden it had been confirmed, and now I'm not 100% sure, but it definitely hasn't been confirmed either way that it's going to Scotland because that was the original statement. So Amazon's got showrunners involved. They've got gosh, I forgot his name. He's the guy that did Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. He's directing the first episode or two episodes as well. I feel like what they've been talking about is thematically wanting it to keep it closer to the Peter Jackson style, so that makes sense if they really want to go that way. And they're throwing a pile of money at it, like, it's essentially that. And I think maybe though, maybe it wasn't true that they were going there, or maybe they were waiting to see sort of the reaction to people saying, "Oh, it's not New Zealand, so it's going to look different." And is that a good thing, bad thing?
Yeah, well, there's definitely people have pointed out similarities between like the Scotland Highlands to like the lower parts of the South Island where Lord of the Rings was filmed, with like the hills and all the rocks sticking out. But they're
two different places. They you can do it similarly. It's just going to be a different look, and that's intentional. Like to me, if you want to. To me, it would make more sense for Amazon to actually film it somewhere else.
Yeah,
do it in Scotland, do it in Europe somewhere. Somewhere that gives it a different look.
And then it can sort of be its own thing, but still kind of tie in.
You do it more from a visual camera stylistic standpoint rather than a design production coordination kind of thing. But the other part of it is that. I guess the other problem with you put it in like I don't know, Scotland or Wales or something in comparison to something like Game of Thrones again. Like, that was a lot of Europe, especially Wales. It looks like what it looks like. Do you want the Lord of the Rings to look too similar to that or not? I don't even know where they're filming. We were talking about the Witcher series before as well, but I don't even know where they're filming that, for example.
Sure.
So,
I don't think I've heard anything on that. I'd read something online of apparently Terry Crews has confirmed that there's going to be a White Chicks 2.
I don't think he confirmed, but he said there was a sequel. I definitely saw the same story. We had this. Was it us that had this conversation recently about White Chicks in general? No, I think it was downstairs.
Possibly, I can't remember.
I was in the house and we were talking about White Chicks and how it's ridiculous that movie. I didn't even realize it was as old as it was. I thought it was newer than it was, and I'm like, Terry Crews is awesome in that movie. It's pretty obvious. People remember him very well for that movie, but It's not. It's a movie of its time, and it was because we're talking about sorority boys as well.
Right,
It's like you can only get away with certain things in a certain time period, and I think that the angle of making a White Chicks 2 palatable for a mainstream audience is probably well past its due-by date. That said, it is the Wayans, and they'll probably just do it anyway.
Yeah,
because they did that with the. They couldn't do a scary movie anymore, so they started doing a haunted house, and they were terrible.
They've
so
just done it for the sake of doing it for themselves.
They've got the money. If someone's willing to back it, they'll do it. So who knows? All of a sudden, next year, all of a sudden, there'll be an announcement. We've actually shot White Chicks 2, and it's out in November or something. Who knows?
So there's a new Sherlock Holmes 3 coming.
Yeah, I was going
back to the whole Henry Cavill thing.
I was going to bring this up, but I think it was better to bring the Henry Cavill stuff together. But yeah, so an actual Sherlock Holmes sequel with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, but not directed by Guy Ritchie. Instead, it'll be directed by Dexter Fletcher, who worked with Guy Ritchie and starred in Guy Ritchie's films early on. He was in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, and he has most recently done Rocket Man, and also was the credited as the person who came in and rescued Bohemian Rhapsody as well. It's interesting because the one thing that I say about the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. is the style is definitely a Guy Ritchie film, so does that mean he's going to ape the style, or does he get the opportunity to make it something different? The second movie, which was Game of Shadows, I think it was okay, but it wasn't great. And the shtick that really worked with the original movie, aside from the fact that it was like right as Robert Downey Jr. was starting to get back into the everywhere pathos kind of after Iron Man, was the take on Sherlock Holmes was kind of interesting. But it also was before they started, as we were just talking about before, all these versions of Sherlock Holmes. And now it's like, do we really need another Robert Downey Jr. movie with Sherlock Holmes? Does Robert Downey Jr. really need to do that? Probably not.
Yeah, and I think there's also the Sherlock Holmes TV series. With,
there's been multiple. There was that, and there was the Elementary, the one with as well. So
there's just multiples here, there, and everywhere, and it's then, like a matter of whether they're going to come back for another season or what have you.
And then to add this Henry Cavill thing on top as well, it's like and then that's not even including the disaster that was Holmes and Watson.
That's right
as well. So
we won't even mention that one.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. I definitely haven't seen it, so we can ping that one.
No, I haven't seen that either at all. No,
but yeah, probably the less said about that, the better.
No, exactly. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. They'll just make it happen. Robert Downey Jr. still makes bank, so and fair enough too. He's a good actor, but like after the second one, did I need to see another Sherlock Holmes? Meh. Will I go see it? Probably not. But will I watch it if it's on? Yeah, okay. I enjoyed them. They're entertaining enough. And Dexter Fletcher is a good director, so
yeah. We'll leave that for now. Jamie Lee Curtis in a Halloween. To do more Halloween sequels, rather.
Yeah, they've already... Well, they announced the title for the second one. I think I saw it as like Halloween Kills or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if it's accurate. I just saw it the other day, or it was a working title or something. I haven't seen the most recent Halloween. I've been meaning to say it, but I haven't seen it, so I don't really know what to say.
I'm not sure, no.
I mean,
she
obviously...
did come back for that, and there was a bit of news around it as well.
There was, and I'm just saying, well clearly your character's still alive.
Yeah. She's the one character.
The one character that's kept up.
It's like Alien with Sigourney Weaver.
I assume you didn't see that there was going to be some discussion, I don't know if you remember this, but there was the sequel, Halloween H2O, and do you know who the actor was that played her son in that movie? Here's a pop quiz for you.
No,
pop quiz hot shot. It was Paul Rudd.
Oh.
And so there was some discussion about Paul Rudd being asked back to come and play essentially the same character, but not the same character.
Yeah. In
the new version, but he was too busy doing another role, which we've also got on our list to talk about. So he had to decline. So that would have been very interesting because it's kind of like the same thing, but not the same thing. Yeah, weird. But anyway, so I saw that too, and I was like, oh, that would have been kind of cool. I actually do like that Halloween sequel. It's not great, but it's cheesy fun. H2O, it's such a ridiculous movie.
Because it's supposed to be, what is it, 20 years later or something?
Yeah,
isn't it?
Halloween 20 years later, H2O.
That's right. Not to be confused with The Water.
No.
No. Speaking of Paul Rudd, we might as well bring this up now, but he posted a cryptic video of himself in New York, standing outside...
Cryptic video.
Wow. Initially, it started off as that, standing outside a very iconic firehouse in downtown New York.
It just seemed like it was a fan video, except you can clearly tell it's Paul Rudd's voice.
Yeah.
And then...
so it's pretty much like a selfie video, standing outside what is now known as the Ghostbusters firehouse, and then it comes on to him, and he mentions that he's going to be in the new... what's his name?
Jason Reitman.
Jason Reitman, thank you. I couldn't think of his dad's name. So the new Jason Reitman Ghostbusters movie, which would be interesting.
And that's the role that he's taken. That said he couldn't do a Halloween sequel. Basically,
Yeah.
he said I would have been able to do it, but I had already committed to doing Ghostbusters. It's going to take too much time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they can. If they're getting Jamie Lee Curtis to come and do multiple Halloweens, there's all sorts they could bring him back.
Bring him back later on. Yeah. If it's scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Or they just might drop the idea entirely and just think it's kind of ridiculous. Who knows? The other bit of Ghostbusters news, though, that was really interesting that everyone picked up on was there was a picture of Jason Reitman, Ivan Reitman, and some of the cast, but not the cast that we know, new cast members. And everyone was pointing at the fact the kids that are in this picture, they're part of it's like something to do with family, welcome back to the family or something, and they all look like Egon. This is the comments. They all look the glasses, hair, and it's like, so maybe it's like children of Egon, and that's how they're gonna kind of keep the connection to Harold Ramis' character, even though he's passed away. Quite a clever idea, I think.
Yeah,
and
I think that was kind of the rumor in the first place that it's not going to be the main cast from the original Ghostbusters, but it's going to be like their children or something like that.
Yeah, or connections. But obviously the original cast is in it, but they're not the direct only focus.
Yeah, and as long as it's not like cheesy cameos like the 2016 version.
Let's not start with that. No, let's not start with that. It's like say what everyone will about that entire situation. The cameos are probably the worst thing about that, especially Bill Murray's. Definitely.
Yeah, so we'll move away from that now. We'll keep going on because we've got so much to get through.
Yeah, definitely.
It was something I read about Andy Serkis potentially in the running to direct Venom 2. I haven't even seen the first Venom yet.
I still haven't.
The first 15 minutes.
I still haven't seen it either. It makes sense. He's done second unit directing. He's done verse directing. He's done motion capture directing.
He's done pretty much everything other than main directing.
Yeah, I mean, second unit's not that far off, and he did a lot of heavy lifting for the Hobbit films with Peter Jackson. So it would make sense for him to get the opportunity. The director of Venom is the one that did Zombieland, and he's currently been doing Zombieland Double Tap. So
he's a bit busy at the moment.
He's been kind of busy. So if they're getting into pre-production, maybe that's another part of it. Maybe it's about the motion capture part of it too, just going the characters so CG that maybe they talk to Circus about creating a better characters and other villains and enemies, and he just ended up having conversation and coming aboard. It hasn't been confirmed, but it seems a suitable fit.
Yeah, it seems fair, yeah. So, Bill, I think we mentioned this in our last episode that Bill and Ted 3 filming was underway.
Yeah, just started.
Yeah, photos come out too of Keanu Reeves with no beard.
I know, it's so weird.
What is it? The last, 10 or so years, if that, we've been used to seeing Keanu Reeves with a beard.
I think it's everything post-Matrix he's had. I don't think it's been very rare for him to not have...
a full-on beard, it's at least been stubble
or, chops and because it was a role where he played a bad guy and he was like that. Yeah, so it was just weird where you can actually see his entire chin again, and I was like, it makes him look way much older than he...
The photo we saw was, I think him and Alex Winter were I think they were on set because you see the phone booth on the background, but it looked like we couldn't really tell whether it was part of a scene or whether they'd sort of just wrapped the scene and they were just going for lunch or something. Yeah. But yeah, it was just really off-putting.
It was really off-putting. I don't know how to
used to seeing someone.
It was so funny. I mean, heaps of stories have been coming about the filming, especially to do with obviously this whole thing we were talking about last time, which was the year of Keanu. And people have been leaving signs on because they know where the filming area, and he's going up and signing them, and people seeing him in the street, and him and Alex Winter, and getting autographs and photos and stuff, and they've all been really nice about the whole thing. The production, I followed a little bit of the production online just to see how the filming progress is going, and they seem like they're having a blast. Yeah, like the director's stoked. Like Dean, I've passed it. I think it is. This guy that did Galaxy Quest. The writers, there's been the same writers for the whole thing, are so stoked to have this working.
It almost seems like no time has passed, even though it's been 30 or so years.
Yeah, almost. since the start of the franchise. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. We learned the other day that Wild Stallions has two Ys. Yes, we must remember this from now on.
If it ever comes up again.
There's a bit of information there for you if you forget.
Yeah, if you're ever at a quiz.
Yeah, ever at a quiz.
WYLDSTALLYNS. Yeah. If you ever need to spell it, you're welcome.
Shall we move forward?
Yeah. I think we mentioned either in the last episode or the episode before that Chris Rock is going to do a Saw film.
Yes, we have mentioned this.
That Chris Rock, the one that you're thinking of.
I'm thinking is that Chris Rock, yes.
Apparently, Samuel L. Jackson is going to be in it.
He has this idea.
Sam L. Jackson.
That's Sam L. Jackson. He has an idea about what he wanted, and apparently Sam Jackson's on board. He said, "Yep, that sounds good to me."
I think he's just signing up for everything these days.
He's happy to do it. He's working. He does a lot of movies every year. So.
Yeah, which I think he currently holds a world record for most movies in a year, like filmed and released.
That probably makes sense.
Yeah.
Usually, I looked at my stats on like most watched on Letterboxd, and it was by far Sam Jackson was like the top of the number of films I'd seen with an actor in it, which is probably the same for like so many people. I heard something about him playing maybe a detective or an ex-detective or something. It would make sense, but it could be anything. And who knows, because we don't know anything about what the film is actually going to be, what the connection. The only thing they've mentioned it was it will connect to the existing universe. So it's not like a complete separation, and there's a real good idea, but other than that, no idea.
Yeah, so I'd read something about Grace Jones was apparently going to be in the next Bond film, Bond 25. Now, Grace Jones is more famously known for being in A View to Kill with Christopher Walken and Roger Moore.
Yeah, the last of the Roger Moore ones, yeah.
And I think she left because she expected to be in it, this is at least what I read, she expected to be in it more than she actually is. Apparently she's only in it for like 5 or 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, but you know,
being the sort of diva she is, she expected to be in the whole film, or at least, an hour's worth of the film.
Okay.
At least this is what I read.
I hadn't even heard that she was in it until after the conversation about her not being in it, and I think it was after you'd already had said this, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's really random. And it's random that she was in it in the first place for anything other than a small role.
Yeah,
it's very rare for ex-Bond women, because that's what they're making sure they're calling them now, and that's just what it is, to be in newer movies, because they need to play. You have to play something character. It has to be separated enough.
You'd have to play like a some sort of different version of
different
character, or a different character
entirely one or the other, because of the way the Bond franchise works.
Yeah.
Who
I'm
knows?
not sure who she was playing. It's just that was the whole big spiel about it.
Well, it came out in the same week as the other bit of news, which was heavily rumored and then kind of confirmed, but kind of like hushly confirmed, because everyone was like pretending that he wasn't there. But Christoph Waltz turned up on set in England, and it makes sense that he's playing Blofeld, and he survived the last movie. Spoilers for everyone who wasn't surprised at that. But
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense, because he was as a villain originally in the original earlier film franchise and the books. He was an existing character. He was an existing character, and so it wasn't a surprise to have him survive. So it's not really too much of a surprise to have him come back. And I think that's why they haven't been like, now that if it is true and it's all come out, they're not really squashing it. I mean, the title hasn't even been announced yet, and
which is still Bond 25,
which is really unusual, because usually by now, before this distance before the film comes out, they've usually announced the film. Usually they announce the title by the time they start the filming. They've clearly started the filming and have been filming for some time, and or probably almost finished if they haven't already. And yet it's still, as you said, Bond 25. So he, as I said, I complained a lot about how his character was set up in Spectre.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean he wasn't. It's Christoph Waltz. He can be a good villain. It was just really not a well written part.
It was sort of predictable from what I remember you telling me, was it?
Yeah, it was predictable. It was ridiculous. The Blofeld thing didn't mean anything, and he was kind of just... It was Christoph Waltz being Christoph Waltz as a bad guy, and they didn't give him much to really do. Give him a better opportunity with better writing and playing the same character, perfectly fine. It was never a bad casting choice as a re-envisioned idea of the character. It just wasn't executed properly, to be more exact, I think.
So Stranger Things season 3 came out recently as well, and they talked to one of the actors in it who was also in the most recent Power Rangers film. They talked to him about, I can't remember his name, he was the Red Ranger from the new Power Rangers film.
You should know better than this than I.
I know.
I actually did like the new Power Rangers as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, but he came out and mentioned that I think they're all under contract for, I don't know, another 3 movies, I think.
Yeah.
But he said that he doesn't think there is going to be any, just because I think it didn't really make that much money as
it didn't do as well as I'd hoped.
Yeah. And yeah, I just don't think it was that well received by like real diehard fans.
Which is
a
strange to
shame.
me because I watched it. I joke about this all the time, but we've talked about this before. There was the Onion trailer about the Star Trek reboot, the J.J. Abrams way, and it was like, Star Trek fans unhappy that new J.J. Abrams film was fun and watchable.
Yeah.
Now, to me, and this is no slight against you or Power Rangers or anything, but I watched that movie. I found it fun and enjoyable. It took the mythos of what Power Rangers was, and it didn't seem so damn cheesy.
No.
And there's people who like the cheese. Don't get me wrong. I get it. Everyone has their fandom, but if you're going to make something for a mainstream audience, keep the fun of it and make it appealing, and you'll hopefully win everyone over. And I think that's the problem. They lost the people who liked it, and it wasn't really marketed well enough at the people that probably should have enjoyed it. And so that's a shame, because I think if it doesn't get a proper sequel, it's a shame.
Yeah.
It
definitely set it up for a sequel.
It set it up for a sequel, and it deserved a really good sequel because all the heavy lifting's done.
Yeah.
Like most of the heavy lifting's done, and it was a good cast. That was the other really good thing about it. Across the board, really great cast. So yeah, it's a real shame. I would rather that they think about a way of retooling
do a
it
new
together.
sequel with the existing cast and to reboot it again.
Yes,
especially so soon. Yeah. Something here that I think you wrote down. I don't remember. I wrote it down about Sam Raimi wanting to return to the Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah, there was some discussion about Sam Raimi. I did write this down. Obviously, there was There's three facets to the Evil Dead franchise. Essentially, you've got Ash Williams.
Yeah. And
they took that line through the movies and then into the Ash vs. Evil Dead series. And Bruce Campbell said, I pretty much think I'm done playing the character. I don't think I'm going to come back to it. But he's kind of left himself a little bit of a never say never, and he's obviously he's
Bruce Campbell.
It's Bruce Campbell, and he's obviously great pals with Raimi. They've worked a lot together, even outside of Evil Dead franchise, and including here in New Zealand. Then there was the rebooted 2013 film, which is another kind of thing of its own making, but it still has Bruce Campbell connected. So in theory, he could play the character that he's in that movie, and he's not playing Ash. He's just playing a different Ash. If you they wanted to twist it that way. And then there were some discussions about other ideas about moving it in different franchise, taking the TV series, but moving it away from Ash and just continuing the characters in a different form, because obviously the show got cancelled.
Yeah.
It's a shame, because I still haven't seen the third season, or the second season, actually, I have to be completely honest. But I really liked the first season. I started watching the second season. And I did like the reboot. I really actually, as one of our modern horror reboots, to take the original concept and kind of craft a new idea around a film and kind of change it up. It was a really cool reboot, and it's visually really stunning and really well made. And that's not saying because it was made here. It was just a really uniquely styled vision. And so I'd like to see any of it. I don't care which way they go. Any of those, I'm happy.
Just new Evil Dead.
Just new Evil Dead, exactly.
Right. Speaking of Sam Raimi, this isn't written down, but I'll just try shoehorn it in quickly. I read something the other day that in the first Sam Raimi directed SpiderMan film, you see the character of Bonesaw McGraw, played by Randy Savage, the late wrestler Randy Savage. I saw something that in Spider-Man Homecoming, near the start, there's a poster, an actual poster of a boxing poster instead of a wrestling match of, I think, somebody Hogan, not Hulk, versus Bonesaw McGraw in a proper boxing match, just in the background of
nice.
Far From Home, rather. I thought that's a nice little Easter egg.
What I was going to say, I don't know the
character to the MCU.
Is the character? This is the thing. Does the character exist from the Raimi films only because of the Raimi films? Or is it a character from the comics already that he just happened to be playing?
I think, from my understanding, that Bonesaw McGraw existed in the comics.
Okay,
so it's just a generic
continue. But that's good.
People have just gone. They've made Randy Savage's character MCU sort of canon, even though it's technically not.
That makes
sense.
Yeah.
It's just the character, not. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense for sure.
Sorry, just thought I'd shoehorn that in.
No,
quickly.
it was good. That makes sense. Very good.
So there was Terminator more Dark Fate news come out.
Yeah. So I've talked about this with a few people. But just kind of preface where I'm going with this. The trailer for Dark Fate is not an easy sell. It doesn't look good. And not in a bad, not in a directly, it's just, I can tell it's not marketing the film the way the film probably is. Do you get that feeling?
Yeah. It's kind of like a misdirect. They're showing you bits that probably aren't that exciting.
Yeah.
to make you go, do I
Well,
really want
no,
to go see it? Or
it's not even that.
I
I
wanna
think
go see
it's
it
not directly a misdirect. I think they just don't know how to market this the way without spoiling too much. And that's where the problem, because we've talked about this, and I joked about it a little bit last time, and I've joked about it with people. When I look at the Dark Fate trailers that exist, it's like they've taken the elements of the other films. They said, don't pay attention to anything after T2, story-wise, but we're going to cherry pick the bits about those other movies that we did actually kind of like.
Yeah.
So we've got like a hybrid Terminator, which is a human, but this time she's aware of the fact that she's a Terminator, but she's like a human with machine cyborg updates so that she can fight.
Yeah.
Cool, that's actually a really good idea. I actually like that as an idea. We've got a liquid metal Terminator that's also an endoskeleton, just like in T3. Judgment Day is still a potential risk, so you've only just delayed it.
We've delayed it, yeah.
So all these things, but I feel like there's going to be a bunch of things that are going to happen in this that we're not going to expect, and that's kind of what they're wanting to hold. But the juggling act is how you convince the audiences to go see it.
Yeah, to go see it without giving too much away.
So the things that do help these sorts of things are what they announced at Comic-Con, which was stuff like it's going to be R-rated. Seemed pretty obvious given the trailer that was where they were heading. But that's good news, because that will get people who are like, right, it has to be R-rated, because that was a big controversy about Terminator 3. And then they made a weird kind of sideways announcement through... And Cameron did this, and he was so flippant about it. He's like, "Oh, John Connor's back. Edward Furlong's coming back as John Connor," and everyone's like, "What?" Like, okay. Now,
I think it surprised a lot of people too.
it kind of surprised them, but we know, if you've been following the marketing materials, you know that they're already doing a young actor swap for what I assume is a flashback. So, is that what he's meaning, or is it not just that? And then is that part of the surprise?
Furlong now, yeah.
And then you start thinking, well, why is there no image of even the CG'd young version of Furlong in any of the trailers? What does this mean for John Connor? What does this mean for Sarah Connor's story? There's an overemphasis on the girl being in the position that she was in, being hunted, which again, to me, and that's another thing that kind of is like a bit like T3, where they were sending the Terminatrix back to kill a bunch of people that were Connor's support crew. Now they're just targeting other people that are higher level resistance members. It makes sense. Yeah. But again, these are things that don't instill you with confidence to go see the movie.
No.
But it just feels like but there probably is. It's just they can't show it, and that makes me. That's the only thing that makes me want to go see it, aside from the return of Sarah Connor as Linda Hamilton being Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Have you got any thoughts? Like, honestly,
no. The only thing I was going to say that it's kind of interesting now that we're going to potentially get Edward Furlong as John Connor, is that it's kind of make more sense now that we see him as a kid in an earlier film, and he's now going to be an adult in a later film, instead of every other movie being a different actor playing John Connor.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
There's slight inconsistency there.
Yeah,
because every one, even up till now, it's been a different actor played John Connor in one way or another.
Yeah, you're completely right. I haven't thought about that. That's another consistency, if it is the case for him.
And I suppose in a way he'll kind of be age correct as well.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think what we'll be telling will be the next or last trailer, because the movie comes out November, I think it is.
Yeah, so there's probably one in the next month or so.
And then whatever that reveals. And this is my other concern, it's going the opposite way, which is that every Terminator movie since T2 has been really bad about keeping spoilers.
Yeah.
The Terminator 2 trailer blatantly makes it the fact that, he's here to save the world. The Terminator 3 thing shows that Judgment Day happened. Terminator... what was it? The Salvation showed off. Right. It revealed the fact that Sam Worthington's character was a Terminator. Terminator Genesis showed that John Connor turned into a Terminator. It's like, oh my god, can you like?
They're gonna kind of ruin it. Maybe that's what they're doing. They're trying to avoid.
This is what I mean.
Big spoilers.
I think this is it. But the problem is, then what are you left to market it on?
Can't.
A bunch of action sequences which seem okay but not great. Like, yeah. And we're not in a directly after post T2 action world. We're in this weird place where action movies are kind of over the top. Action movies are kind of dime a dozen. So you've got to do something that's kind of spectacular but not too stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on. So Kevin Smith is currently in the process of post Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yes, which they released a trailer for.
Yep, at Comic
We'll
Con.
come back to that later.
I think it was supposed to be released the day of Comic Con.
Yeah, it was.
Like released a day early.
No, it was released the first
Oh, was
day.
it the release? Oh, okay, my mistake.
It was the morning of the first day, I think.
That's right. So that's come out to, I think, good critical acclaim.
Yeah,
And
there's some
definitely
surprises.
a
We'll
lot
come
of-
back to that later because we're going to talk about a bunch of trailers together. But yeah, it's looking positive.
Yeah. He's said that he wants to revisit Clerks 3, which would be good if he can convince Jeff Anderson to come back.
Yeah, now he did this because Ben Affleck is now in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and that happened because of a podcast, funnily enough. They would at a press junket thing and asked Affleck about whether or not he'd been in touch with Smith about appearing in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and he said no, but he said I'd be keen. I just haven't heard from him. And so they end up having a conversation. This got passed through to them, and they had a conversation. And end up adding a scene to the movie to include
Just for Ben Affleck.
just for Ben Affleck to have one of his characters come back. It's Holden McNeil from Chasing Amy. So he was like, after that, he was kind of bolstered by the idea. Well, if I can get Affleck to come and do this, maybe I can convince Anderson, who was the holdout on Clerks 3. If I can, because and Smith admits it that the Clerks 3 draft that he wrote several years back was in a different place mentally. And so he's like, if I can do a more positive thing, maybe it'd be something Jeff actually wants to do. You and I had talked, like literally the movie got real close to production. It was like weeks. And we talked to Brian O'Halloran when he was here for
That's right.
And he was
year before, yeah.
Yeah, a few years, but was it 3 years ago?
I think so.
And I think he was like, I'm going back and we'll be filming soon. Like that was the thing. It was going to happen.
Yeah.
And the movie literally was 3 or 4 weeks away from starting. And Anderson pulled out. And everyone, because he had signed down all these people. And then the same thing happened with Mallrats. He had like a Mallrats sequel and everyone had signed on board, and then that didn't go ahead.
So I don't know. Wait and see.
We'll wait and see, exactly. Hopefully. I'm keen.
Yeah.
I'm always keen for more Clerks.
Anything Kevin Smith, really. Just not cop out. We'll leave that there.
Yeah.
I think
I haven't seen Yoga Hoses either yet, to be fair.
that's true, yeah. I haven't seen that.
Red State was right.
Yeah. So there's a delay with Akira.
Yeah, well, so part of, I kind of, maybe, yeah, I don't know. We'll come back to Akira later on.
All right.
No, we're going to talk about Akira now, but we'll come back to Akira in general later on. But I still think it's unfilmable. And when Taika took that on board, this is going back to Taika from what we were talking about earlier, just like another thing. So he hasn't dropped out of it entirely, but he's delayed it because he's got Marvel news, which we'll come to shortly as well. But I just think it's one of those things, and now you've seen it.
Yeah.
And we'll come to that again later. I think it just should stay as it is. Hollywood needs to stop trying to turn it into a movie. It's just don't make it happen. I think it's the scope is too massive to get it right, and it's too easy to get it wrong. And like I look at Alita and I look at Ghost in the Shell, and I just like the successes of them are very weak compared to their failures. And Akira has a lot more that could go wrong.
Yeah, that's probably a fair call.
If I could be more honest. So I think this delay is the good thing, and I think Taika should just drop it in the end. And if Warner's want to go ahead with someone else, they can do it and then just put it into massive turnaround constantly and never make it. That's fine too. But at this stage, it's been delayed until Taika's free again after current agreements, which we'll get to shortly. Yeah, I'm not fussed.
Yeah. So, speaking of Taika, we might as well move on to Marvel news. Let's face it, there was a lot.
It was a
Comic-Con.
huge amount of Comic-Con. We might as well just lump this all together.
So we'll start off with apparently Keanu Reeves to the MCU. That hasn't been confirmed nor denied.
No, well, so Kevin Feige said that he's wanted to have Keanu in, and he's approached him about several roles, and nothing's really fit, or he's been available, or whatever, and they still want to have him involved somehow, and they will find a role for him eventually, and it's one of those things that's just an inevitable amount of time. It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
Just like Thanos.
Yeah. So then now people are like, who could he play in the comics pantheon? And you'll see all these different artworks and stuff. It's funny too. This is kind of an aside, but having just, and we'll get to this later on as well, the new Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw film, the director of that was obviously one of the people who worked on John Wick and Matrix, and there was a lot of rumours going on that maybe Keanu Reeves will join the Fast and the Furious franchise as well, and that is not true as far as it stands currently. But then he's come out and saying, well, if Keanu wants to do it, I'm not going to say no. If Keanu wants to, I'm going to say to him, hey, we've got this role, and we're thinking maybe you want to do it. Do you want to do it? And he says, yes, we're going to do it. So it's kind of the same thing there, I think. I don't think they're ever going to say no to Keanu Reeves turning up in a Marvel film, whatever it is, and when they find the right thing that works for everyone, it'll just happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go back to Taika as well. We might as well start there and then work our way back through the rest of the list.
Good idea.
So Taika came out amongst the whole bunch of Marvel news at Comic-Con saying that he'll be back for Thor 4.
Yeah, so that was kind of pre-announced, but they didn't announce any details. They just said he had signed on and that Akira was being delayed. And then at the Comic-Con panel, they actually announced what the movie was, who's in it, what it's called, and left a big hammer drop.
Yeah, literally. I mean, we might as well say it because it's been out there for a couple of weeks now. So it came out that pretty much the main cast is back. Tessa Thompson is Valkyrie. Chris Hemsworth is Thor, or Bro Thor as he's now known, I guess. Yeah. Unless he hits the workout regime,
which we'll find out by the time it happens.
Yeah, and surprisingly, Natalie Portman is back.
Yeah,
which I think, from what I've read, the only way they got her back, whether this is the only way or not, is that she's going to become the female Thor or Lady Thor.
Well, that's what it's going to be. That apparently, what I did read was that Taika liked the idea of it. He was reading. There's a current run that's been going for the last several years, and he was reading it when he was doing Thor Ragnarok, and he thought the idea was doable, and he said to Marvel management, what's the chances of talking to her about it? And they said, we can meet a meeting, we can't guarantee anything, but if she wants to do it, she'll do it. Yeah. And they had one meeting, and he pitched her the idea and said, this is why I want to do it, and this is how I'm going to do it, and if you're on board, we're going to do it, and if not, we'll do something else. And she said yes, and that's how it went, apparently. Yeah.
And of course, she did show up at the Endgame premiere as well, which made people question whether she's actually in it, which she is, but not directly. It's just unused footage from...
The only thing she did additionally was voice.
Voice, yeah. It was an RDO.
An RDO, yeah. An ADR.
ADR, sorry, yeah. RDO.
ADR, yeah. Which was all that was needed, and an agreement sign off on the footage to be used in the film.
Do you want to run down the rest of the list?
Yeah, well, quickly, I'm just going to go through the movies first, and then I was like, no, they're all over the place. So very quickly, Black Widow. So officially confirmed, even though everyone knew it was filming. Yeah. Everyone knew it was filming. Yeah, filming in Budapest. Filming in Budapest.
Irony.
Which is ironic. Maybe intentional. I'd already heard specifically through two different people that it was happening, directly where they were filming and why. So that's kind of funny that that floated all the way here, and I heard this. So that's the case. I didn't even write. I wish I'd written the cast, but there's so much stuff. There's a whole bunch of famous people in all of these.
Yeah.
Now I'm struggling to even think about it.
You've got here the Eternals, which the only name that's popping to mind now is Angelina Jolie, which I think was a hell of a surprise.
It was, but then people have been rumouring that for a while, and there's a few other people that have been on the rumour list for that film, and they're all been confirmed. So obviously the rumours were true, or like someone was leaking information about who was on the cast list. There's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is to follow up properly the story of the Mandarin, and they've cast all the roles for that, including an actual person for the Mandarin. So,
and I think a lot of people are wanting Tony Slattery to appear, Ben Kingsley's Tony Slattery.
Yeah, I want to see what happens with that.
That would be good, because if you go back to the All Hail the King short,
of course,
there was someone who was actually involved with the Ten Rings, broke him out of prison to take him to the real Mandarin. Right. So that would be a good tie-in there.
And it makes sense having this crossover. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Sorry, Multiverse of Madness, which obviously lets up a multiverse concept, which they played a little bit already on SpiderMan, although that's not what it seems.
Yeah.
But it obviously now means it is, and we already kind of have that in Endgame in theory, because they already make multiverses by the time changes. Yeah. They try to mitigate that. I still have issues with that.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But it sounds interesting. They're talking about a bit of a horror thriller bent to it, and having Scarlet Witch in it and stuff like that. Then there was a bunch of other. We won't talk about the shows yet, but there was a bunch of other future movie announcements. Those were all part of the next phase. It's not the complete phase right now, but it was just what was there. But there was other ones mentioned for further along. Included, obviously, ones that we knew about, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Black Panther 2, Captain Marvel 2. Then they confirmed that there would be a Fantastic Four feature at some point. The X-Men, well, I think Feige called them, like, the mutants.
Yeah.
And then they brought out Mahershala Ali to be the new Blade.
Yeah.
Which seems...
an Oscar winner.
Yeah, and seems so on point. It's ridiculous. Like, it's genius.
And even Wesley Snipes has given him his blessing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, especially after the whole Blade 3 debauchery there and him not wanting to come out of his trailer and all that. But he's passed on his blessings. So
apparently what I saw was that both parties had the same ideas and interests. Like, Ali wanted to do it, and he come and said, hey, look, if you're going to do Blade, I'd be keen. And they were like, well, funny enough, we were thinking about you as one of the main candidates if we were going to do a Blade movie or something to that effect. So it worked out obviously very well. They confirmed a bunch of Disney Plus shows as well for the upcoming Plus launch and in coming years. So there's like 2 shows per year along with up to 3 movies. There's Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Zemo. Because
Zemo comes back, and apparently this time he's actually wearing his proper comic accurate purple mask as well.
I saw a photo
which
of
would
that.
Be interesting.
Loki, which has been confirmed to be the Endgame spin-off Loki who escapes with the Tesseract. WandaVision, which is a period set, I think it was.
Yeah, the 60s, I think. So
how that works.
Well, I kind of think that might tie into the Doctor Strange too, if Wanda's going to be in that. So they might do something there.
That's possible. I didn't see where those things lie. A Hawkeye TV series and a What If animated series where they've got like an absurd number of cast members from the entire history of the Marvel Universe. And they'll probably rope in more because I'm sure they can pay Robert Downey Jr. a couple $1 million to come into a voice booth.
That'd be sure.
Yeah, so it was a lot, and it was pretty much one of the last big panels of the Comic-Con, and it wasn't a surprise, and it had been long expected and waited for because they said they weren't going to announce anything till after basically the phase had completed and Spider-Man was out.
And then Comic-Con just came, and they're like, oh, we're going to dump all this on you now.
Yeah. I think it's worth mentioning, I wrote these down, Avengers made all the monies. It finally passed.
All the monies in the world.
It passed Avatar officially on by standard number, not by inflation. But then Avatar had a bigger re-release, and it was later with more content than the technical re-release that Avengers had. Spider-Man's also made over $1 billion.
It's by far the best Spider-Man to ever come out.
Yeah,
well,
as far as money wise. Well, I enjoyed it the most out of all of them myself personally, but that mileage
multiverse? A Spider-Verse, rather?
Oh, okay, no, that's a good question. Live action, yes. Spider-Verse, maybe not. I'm not sure. They're both pretty good. And on our...
Both good Spider-Man movies to come out in the last 5 years or so.
Well, even just to be more specific, the last year, that's pretty impressive.
That,
I guess on the pantheon of what we're on an adjacent line, we're talking about the live-action Disney stuff, and this is all obviously Disney-related because they own all this stuff. Aladdin passed $1 billion in the worldwide box office. Lion King's pretty much on the same par right now. I think it just has.
What are people doing?
Yeah, it's kind of pretty crazy.
Walt Disney's rolling over in his frozen grave and all this money.
Frozen grave. It's cryogenic storage.
Yeah, exactly. You know, somewhere under the castle in Disneyland. Yeah, that's where it is. Apparently,
yeah, that's what we all get told, isn't it?
Yeah. Who knows?
I'm just gonna bring this back.
No, that's fine.
While I'm thinking about this, I haven't really had any conversations yet. And all this stuff is so much future stuff. I haven't asked you any of these you haven't seen, so I haven't had to ding you this time. By the way, which is good.
What of stuff that the news has come out? Or
I'm looking at it going, there's pretty much nothing here. There was stuff I hadn't seen, like Halloween, and. So I'm dinging myself. I just realised, most of the stuff is relevant to stuff that you hadn't seen other than Hunger Games other than the first one. There's most of this you've seen.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I made a list after the last episode of all the things that you hadn't seen.
What did we get to?
I think it was like 7 or 8 things. One of them you've seen since, which was a good thing. But yeah, you're right. The last thing before we had a bunch of trailers, and I'm going to shoot through the trailers really fast. The last thing, and I talked to you personally about this because I was just like, when is the point of making a movie the point of making a movie for people to see it or not see it. And Christopher Nolan is the person that you kind of go, right. Because I said to you, I remember when Inception was announced, it had like a one-line log line, which was like to do with the dreams in the mind or something. I can't remember what it was. And then you went to a website and it was just the spinning top and it just didn't
Kept
stop.
going, yeah. It's pretty much a GIF.
Yeah, pretty much. It was full frame. It was like a video kind of background, and that was all it is. And it just spun and spun and spun. And so everyone's been talking about his new film. It's called Tenant, and it's obviously a palindrome. It's the same forward and backwards, and the logo looks backwards, but obviously reads forwards. It's got a pretty crazy cast, and some of his usual players and some new people, but nobody knows anything about it until this week, when for certain screenings of Hobbs and Shaw in the States, they just added a 40-second trailer, which doesn't tell me much, other than it's a Christopher Nolan film and like one of the main actors. And even now, I still have no idea, having read this, what it actually is about. So I don't kind of get that as marketing myself. Like, I was kind of thinking, we were talking before about like Terminator. Yeah, there's that thing you don't want to spoil too much, but you can't. I like Chris Nolan films. I don't like all Chris Nolan films. I love Memento. I love The Prestige. I did not like Interstellar. But that sort of marketing does not appeal to me. It actually puts me off. He did a little bit with Dunkirk as well, and I wasn't as fazed about Dunkirk, just simply because of it. And this doesn't engage me. I want to know enough for me. You know, I can't just go, oh, it's Christopher Nolan. I must go see this film, and I must go see it in IMAX because it'll be an IMAX release. You know,
No doubt will be.
It will be.
So
It'll be an IMAX.
Break another camera.
Yeah, there'll be another IMAX release. But I'm like, give me some information, Nolan, please. Like, sure, if you're going to release a trailer at one platform, just release it everywhere. I don't care if it's 40 seconds, tells me something. It gets me visually interested. Putting it in a certain release in the United States, Warner Brothers is not helping the situation. So, I just wanted to ramble about that. That's why I added it today.
Absolutely fine.
Added it today. I was going to say there was a pile of trailers, and there's some adjacent news that we've kind of not talked about with these trailers. We'll try and keep it short because we're already almost at an hour, I think. Yeah,
pushing it.
It's not too bad, actually. I thought we way over an hour for the amount of stuff that we had to talk about already. So we'll just go through it. Do you want to take turns, and you announce the trailer, and then we'll talk about it, and then I'll do the next one. And
so there was new Charlie's Angels trailer coming out. I think directed by Elizabeth Banks.
Correct.
I think, and she's in it. She plays Bosley.
Yeah, female Bosley.
Bosley.
Although it seems like there's multiple Bosleys. I'm a little bit confused about this.
Which
isn't surprising.
Yeah, it's also got was it Kristen Stewart from the Twilight franchise,
along with many other things.
Yeah, and I think Patrick Stewart is in it as well.
I think he's
Charlie.
I'm trying to work this. I was trying to work this out. This is
could be a misdirect as a Bosley.
Another Bosley. This is what I was trying to work. It looks it's a really interesting place because we're enough removed from the Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, Drew Barrymore one, but tonally there's still hallmarks of it.
Yeah, it looks very similar.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's in this weird space where it's kind of like a halfway between, if I really wanted to describe it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, halfway between like that Charlie's Angels and like a Mission Impossible film.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that's how it feels to me. Yeah. I have no idea.
I didn't think of that at the time, but yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it's how I feel about it. It doesn't feel nearly as cheesy or stupid as the McG films, but it doesn't feel too serious either. Yeah. It could go either way.
Yeah. There was also Jumanji, the next level trailer out. That's got the returning cast rather from the first Dwayne Johnson Jumanji film.
Yes. Which was a surprisingly good movie, actually.
Yeah. So it's got the kids as well as, the main actors here, like Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan.
Yep.
As well as Rhys Darby.
Yep. Welcome to Jumanji.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was the addition of elderly people played.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
So
do you remember who the?
Yeah, Danny DeVito.
Correct.
And
Pop Quiz Hot Shot.
Lethal Weapon. Too old for this shit. Danny Glover.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Danny Glover.
Two Dannys.
Yes, two Dannys. And they somehow get put into the game because it's obviously been broken at the end of the last movie.
First one and
smashed.
Somehow it's
someone's put it
Glitched,
together
yeah.
and it's glitching out. But then there was complaints that Gillen's pretty much the only person who's playing the same person that she was playing in the original, and then how is it not fair to her not to throw out some acting chops and all this sort of stuff in it? So, but they were trying to say this it's different, it's going to be interesting. I like the first one. I'm definitely going to give it a shot. Definitely going to give it a shot.
There's also, was it Knives Out? It's the new
Ryan Johnson.
yeah
Yeah.
film with it's Captain America, Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, yes.
Sorry, I couldn't think of his
It's
name.
all right. It's a I want to say it's like a murder mystery, and it's got Daniel Craig, and it's got a standing cast actually. It reminds me of like a modern version of Clue.
Okay.
Have you seen Clue? I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen Clue, yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like a modern version of that, maybe without the cheesy multiple endings.
Maybe that's what they want.
Maybe that is what they want. And Johnson's unique scripting. I mean, say what you will, how you feel about Last Jedi, but the rest of his films have all been very unique. And so I suspect this will be no different. And if he's taking inspiration from your classic murder mystery, kind of twisty, plot-driven characters who are unreliable kind of thing, it'll probably be quite entertaining. It looks good, and stylistically looks really, really good as well.
You've got Milan.
Yeah, so
I don't think I saw this.
the Disney another Disney live action. The first time I've seen this where I'm actually like, okay, I can see this being interesting since Pete's Dragon, and it's the only live action remake I've really enjoyed. Because they took a core concept of the original and they've turned it into something different. Milan has a good opportunity to take historical construct and apply it and have a much more weight than, say, the animated film did. Not to say that the animated film didn't, but just to do it differently. Not be like Lion King, not be like Aladdin, and be more or less a remake of it in a live action form. I kind of almost do want to wish she'd brought Anne in, because she would probably have a lot more to say about it, because we had a conversation about Milan and what it kind of could mean to people, and just the casting and all that sort of stuff. It will be. I'm hopeful. This is the movie I would, if I was to say this live action movie is going to make $1 billion. I want it to be Milan. It probably won't. Lion King made $1 billion, Aladdin makes $1 billion, and then Milan makes like 600,000, and everyone goes, "Oh well, shame about that Milan movie."
Maybe when it comes out, we'll bring Anne in as a special guest.
Definitely.
There was a trailer for The King's Man, a Kingsman prequel, which set up.
I'm indifferent about this. There's going to be a sequel still to the Kingsman trilogy. That's the idea. It's supposed to be a third one, which will continue the original film series. But this is
Eggsy.
This is a prequel that explains how the Kingsman agency existed. It's set
Or
during
how it began.
how it began, and during the war. And I feel like that seems like a really great idea, but I'm like, does it need to be a movie? This seems like something funny off, because the whole franchise is based off very loosely based off a comic. Could this been something that would be better portrayed in a comic?
Yeah.
Or if they were going to do this thing, which a lot of people are doing, a TV series.
Yeah.
I kind of would have seen that maybe a little bit more, or a short form TV series. So, yeah, I don't know. The trailer looks good, but it doesn't tell you a lot. Some great casting, not surprising. And if the action sequence is as good as the other Kingsman, then it'll probably be worth watching it. For that.
I think, and I think from what I think we talked about this too, but it looks as though the timeline's a bit askewed as well.
Yeah,
there's the younger version of what appears to be Colin Firth's character.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And kind of a similar vein to Eggsy in the first two Kingsmen.
Yeah, but I'm not. See, I'm not convinced either way. I'm not sure that that's right or wrong. It's weird. I'm not sure if that is supposed to be the case, but it doesn't make sense if it is World War, unless all of a sudden there's like some big announcement that the Kingsmen have some sort of like aging tech, which I guess it could be possible, but. I'd rather not.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. You've got down here Playing with Fire.
Yeah, did you see this at all?
I don't think I did. No.
It's like a Nickelodeon. I think it's Nickelodeon film with John Cena.
Oh no, I did now.
Yeah,
sorry.
It looks like ridiculous. Like I came up on a
like
Facebook,
firefighters or something.
Yeah, firefighters. Came up like a Facebook post and just started auto playing, and I looked at it and I was like. Aren't we past this point where we get like wrestlers / action movie stars to play dumb characters in dumb comedies, like your Tooth Fairies and your all that sort of stuff. And this goes back to fucking Hulk
Santa
Hogan.
with muscles.
Santa with muscles, exactly. and your 80s. It's like, aren't we past this point where this should stop being a thing? I'm like, what are you doing, Cena? Like, you're better than this. And not just him, like, the entire cast. You're better than this. Like, and Nickelodeon's better than this.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon's actually made some really good, kind of funny, older kids, young adult films. One of them was Fun Size. I really enjoyed that. It was really, really good. And yet, I look at this trailer and I just go, ugh. Like what? Who's the audience? Who's the audience? The jokes are too high for young kids to enjoy, but they're too lowbrow for like teenagers or adults to enjoy. It's who's it for? Like what are you doing? Yeah.
You've got Hustlers.
Yeah, Hustlers was actually Anne again mentioned this to me, said that it had come out, and I had heard very vaguely about the story. It's based on a true story. Could be a true story because it's still a contentious court issue. It's about a select group of women who were basically hustling men at nightclubs and stealing their money while getting them, they were either spiking their drinks or getting them intoxicated and basically stealing tens of thousands of dollars off their credit card. And of course, they wouldn't go and tell anyone because, of course, it looked dubious when they were charging up tens of thousands of dollars at a strip club that they had legally entered of their own choosing. And this actually happened. It's that part actually definitely happened, but how much of the story is up in debate because one of the main actual people involved in it is notorious for telling a bunch of very tall tales and lies. But for a film, it totally makes sense. And so I actually went and read the article it was based on. I think it was like a New Yorker article or something like that. And it's really good. Yeah. And I'm really keen to see the movie, and it's got a really great cast, and I think it'll be really awesome. But the problem I've got is there's the kitchen, and last year there was Widows, and in some respect it's these women who are kind of doing illegal stuff because they've been downtrodden, and it's moral grey area, but there's too much thematic ground that they're all kind of similar, true or not. And that's the only thing that will probably have the slide against it. People might go, if they've seen Widows or The Kitchen, they might go, well, Hustlers, it seems like another alternate take on a bunch of women banding together and taking down, because the whole idea is that they're taking down like corporate greed, essentially. That's they do it the Robin Hood kind of thing, but in the end they're giving the money to themselves. Yeah,
instead of giving it to the poor.
Exactly. And I mean, that's what the other two movies have in common as well. It's Widows is the ex-wives, so the widows of some guys that got killed, and they are having to clear a debt. I think The Kitchen's about mob wives taking over. Yeah. So it's not. It doesn't seem too far removed. So that'll be the thing that tells it. I'm going around in circles on this.
That's all right. There was a trailer for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood released, featuring Tom Hanks as
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, thank you.
That's all right.
I was going to say Captain Rogers.
Steve. What's really interesting about this, I mean, people go pitch perfect casting as Tom Hanks. Cool, got that. Cool. I've seen the documentary that came out, Won't You Be My Neighbor? I think it was earlier this year.
I think it was, yeah.
Really good doco. Really, really worth watching. Really weird situation though. This is you're gonna have to vibe with me going a little bit side adjacent to this. So, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is actually based on an event that actually happened, which was a magazine writer. I can't remember what magazine he was working for in the 90s. Was given an assignment. It might have been Esquire, I think. Was given an assignment to meet Mr. Rogers as part of this like New American Heroes issue that they were doing, and he's the cover for the thing. And he had no interest in Mr. Rogers, no experience with Mr. Rogers. Really, he knew who he was, but he was going to meet him and
sort of
learn about
grown up with him,
really. And he is the article and the situation of him meeting him is what this movie's based off. Interesting, he's in the documentary, but the version in the film is not him. It's a fictional writer, not named the same. The weirdest part of this, and this is really, really, really adjacent now, but the weirdest thing is when I saw the guy's face in the documentary, he looked like Joaquin Phoenix. Like, oh, wow. I'm at the point where, like, you could have just cast that character as he stands as the person he's supposed to be and just got Joaquin Phoenix to play him, and it would have been pitch perfect. And I showed this to a couple of people once I'd seen this guy, and I'm probably gonna have to post this with this podcast because people will be like, you need to see it, and I can't even remember the guy's name, so it's not gonna help. So I definitely need to post this. But it's weird how much he looks like what he looks like now.
Yeah,
and it's so weird. Excuse me. So really roundabout way, but anyway, other than that. The documentary was really good, and if the article that essentially I read the article as well just to see what it's going to be that this film was going to be based off. It was very interesting because essentially meeting Mr. Rogers changed his life. It actually coolly uprooted his belief system of how people interact.
Yeah,
which is a great thing. And
that was the whole Mr. Rogers thing as well. He was just trying to teach respect and be nice to people.
It's interesting because his thing was a lot obviously was childhood behavioural, right? Like it was about understanding who children are, what they are going to be, and all this sort of stuff. And then in the 80s, he actually stopped doing as many episodes of his show and started doing this thing for adults, and it didn't really catch on like he wanted. But it just his unshattering belief system seemed to be, in the way he understood people was so different and so unusual. And there's all that backlash, and they talk about this a little bit in the documentary, and I suspect it'll be touched on a little bit in this film as well, where you hear those things now where like, oh, millennials are really entitled in America because Mr. Rogers told everyone they're special. And which is stupid. That's not what he says at all. No. It's not the point at all.
It's just been misconstrued.
It's just been misconstrued that people are entitled brats because, Mr. Rogers said that everyone's special. Which is stupid. It's just stupid. But you honestly couldn't pick a better person. The movie looks pitch perfect. It'd be worth a watch. And I'm sure either people are going to go one way or the other. It's going to be too sickly sweet. And Tom Hanks is perfectly cast, but so obviously cast. Or it's terrible, or it's amazing and it's going to be an Oscar contender and all this sort of
character. Yeah, I definitely think it's kind of got that early vibe as well. Yeah, in just my opinion. I mean, hell, it's Tom Hanks.
Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, people have been saying this for years. Oh, if they're going to make a Mr. Rogers biopic, get Tom Hanks in there. Yeah, definitely.
So there was. I don't even want to mention this one, but
yeah, we have to.
There was a trailer for Cats. Should we just move on?
No, I'm going to talk about this.
All right.
I didn't see the trailer first. I saw the behind the scenes thing they posted the day before, and I thought to myself, "Oh yeah, I remember now they were making Cats." I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." So they're making the sets like proportionate to the size of the people. I was like, "That's an interesting idea." And I'm slowly looking at the stuff that they're doing, and I'm like, "You realize who did this design? Because it's disproportionate. Things are not right." And then that became not even close to the problem about that trailer once it launched. I mean, people noticed that too.
That's not the only thing they noticed.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to be devil's advocate. There's nothing wrong with the CGI.
All right.
There's nothing wrong with the CGI. It looks right for the idea if you're going to cover an entire person in fur. What is wrong with the CGI, if you were going to say something, is that it's not the CGI. It's the uncanniness of the characters.
Yeah. And
I think the thing that tells me what that is that you look at a cast member in that trailer that you don't know the actor. They look weird, but they're not as weird as the ones that recognize the actor's face.
Yeah.
That's the weirding thing, because you're like, I recognize, oh, that's Ian McKellen. Oh, that's Judi Dench. Oh, that's Idris Elba. I recognize their face, but it's on a weird cat.
Yeah.
And that makes it worse. It's not to say that it's not weird anyway, but I think that is just more... But I think to myself, how is she going to do this?
It's kind of my thoughts on it too. Like, it's definitely CGI, and you can tell that, but it kind of looks as though they've tried to make it more like the stage play, where you can sort of see the actor's face, but they're just in like the cat leotard sort of thing.
But
that's just my vibe of it.
Yeah, I get that, but I kind of was like, I would prefer to see the way it's done in the stage show more than the way they're doing it in the movie, where it's actually fur over the entire face. Yeah, because it's still like light fur, even in the cheeks and everything, right? And yeah, but then Cats is a weird musical. Yeah, and like we're in this thing where. Musicals are interesting to me in the sense that we went through a period for a long time where we just didn't do musicals as films anymore, and then we kind of late 90s it kind of ramped up again, and then over the last 20 years we just get a couple of musicals every couple of years, and usually quite to good success. Some not so much, obviously. But Cats has kind of belayed the idea that it's never really needed a musical, because it just seems like one of those things, like a filmed version, because you either just film the performance because it's so required on the bodysuit kind of stuff we've talked about, and the story is so weird. And it's a weird story, let's be honest. And most people know the one song. I think the only thing I'm confirmed about is this is not going to make any money. I think people are so abhorrently put off by it that it'll probably launch okay for a weekend and then just disappear.
No one will care about it.
They'll be like, it's so weird, and I went and saw it, and they'll tell all their friends it's just as creepy as you thought it was.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, the singing was great, or the performances were amazing, but I couldn't get over the cats.
Yeah. That's probably what it will be. We touched on this before, the Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
What a trailer, in the sense that it feels oddly familiar, yet not at all.
Yeah.
Has so many famous people, some of them not playing the same characters they've played previously in his films. And I have yet still no entire understanding of where exactly it's going.
Yeah.
It was a trailer that told me a lot, but told me nothing at all.
Yeah. It definitely seems to be, from what I can tell, is it looks as though it could be a Bloodline and Chronic reboot movie in universe being made.
Yeah, that part
like
I know.
In the first movie, there was the Bloodline and Chronic movie being made.
But now this is like a modern.
It's Jay and Silent Bob part take 2, I guess, in a way, or kind of.
The best way I can explain it, I was trying to explain this to someone recently, was it would be like the new version is like Christopher Nolan as opposed to whatever the director that Chris Rock plays in the original one.
That's right, yeah.
It's like the Burton. Say that was like the Burton Batman, then this is like the Nolan Batman, you know, like
I'll give you that.
It's supposed to be the gritty relaunch of the franchise, and that's why they've got the stars of the Burton version turning up and going, oh, I can't believe they're rebooting the film, you know. But that's not I get that part of it, but I don't get the overall. There's obviously something to do with a Jay having a child, possibly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, all right. I'll go see it. I just don't have no clue what I'm going to go see at all. Whereas every other time I've gone to see one of those movies, I think I've known what I'm going to get in for. But as far as the viewer skew of whose films go, that's when I'm like, yeah. It's Jay and Silent Bob. I'll go see it. Yeah.
There's also It Chapter 2, which I think we knew this already, but the quiz we went to the other night is going to have by far the most amount of blood in any film.
Yeah, I think we did talk about this because we were talking about Jessica Chastain said that they were talking about the amount of blood. She's like, I just add more blood, I don't care.
Yeah.
And basically one scene, she's apparently like just drowning in blood, essentially, like fake blood. Which funny enough, I think there's actually a shot of that in the trailer. What was interesting, I don't know if you saw this. This came out, I think it was just today or yesterday or something. I read it. I can't remember how long ago I read it. The kids in the first movie have already aged so much out of their age that they've had to de-age the kids.
Oh, wow.
Because obviously the flashbacks that have to be inserted in the second chapter have to be concurrent to the events of the first movie. And obviously, they've already aged out a little bit out of the... I mean, some of them have been in like Shazam and all that sort of stuff. And you can already see the difference between how they were in the first chapter of it. So it was interesting reading that, and I was like, wow, that's crazy that we've got to that point.
You'd almost think they would have just filmed all the stuff for this at the time.
Well, I don't think I think in a logical sense, if the studio had been prepared to do it, they probably would have just done it that way, but they weren't sure how big it was going to be. Obviously, it ended up being like the biggest horror movie of all time.
Sense, yeah.
And they probably were like, it would have been easier. And I mean, the runtime for this new film is going to be massive. Apparently, it's like almost 3 hours.
Ooh.
And, you know, that's what I heard rumoured, and I don't think it's been unconfirmed that was the case. So if you take the two chapters together, it's, you know, looking at a 5-hour runtime. That's longer than the original miniseries.
Yeah.
The original miniseries is over 3 hours.
Twice as long or something, almost?
Almost. The original miniseries is over 3. So, I don't know. I'm super keen. It's probably the film... I was really hyped about the first movie. It was the movie I really, really, really wanted to see. I'm super hyped about the sequel, and it just keeps sounding better and better and better. The trailers look good. The cast is outstanding. I'm super
from
excited
what I
to
know
see
of
their
the
take
cast,
on it.
they're all well cast actors as well.
Yeah, they all make sense for the roles. And I'm super psyched to see what is the same and what's different. Because especially the last, I mean, there's a few clues in the trailer, but the last final bit of that book is so messed up.
Yeah. Let's see what else is there. There's the Top Gun Maverick trailer.
Yeah, no, this is interesting. So the biggest controversy about this trailer is the fact that Maverick is still a captain.
Yeah, he hasn't been promoted in 30 years.
Yeah, well, he had been and then not been or demoted, but you technically couldn't stay a captain that long.
Yeah.
You'd be discharged beforehand, and so everyone's like, there must be some sort of reason. And they changed his jacket. I assume, did you see this?
No, I didn't.
Because there was patches on the original jacket that were like, was it Chinese or Japanese? I can't remember. Obviously related to when you said in the 80s, you had like different nationalities. They've changed it, which people have inferred on the fact that some of the backing that would have come into this movie would have come through like Chinese companies.
Yeah.
So these controversies. Oh, and McGill, who's the love interest, not being involved in it as well. And instead they've got Jennifer Connelly. Like these three little minor things, well, somewhat minor things, are overshadowing the idea of the movie. And it's like, well, I don't remember anyone ever. I know this sounds really bad, but I don't remember anyone ever really clamoring, going, "Oh, that movie Top Gun, it really needs a sequel.
Yeah,
I really want to revisit that character." And, Maverick really needed.
I don't think anyone asked for that, but no, well, we're getting one.
Visually, like action scene wise, it looks cool. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people pulling out little nitpicky, "Oh, that's not accurate. They're too tight in this shot. The military would never do this," because that's what they did with the first movie. If they're going around and there's legitimate shots of Tom Cruise flying fighter planes, that's cool. Stunning visuals, and him and McQuarrie have had a really good working relationship over this last several years. So it'll probably be entertaining, and I'm sure it'll be a great game of, I wonder who's coming back that you don't know, because obviously there's ones that you do know, and there's probably ones that you don't know coming back. I don't know. It's I'm not going to be like out the door. Oh, I'm going to go down and see Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, but if you're into more singing at the bar, topless volleyball, and some more Kenny Loggins, it's probably for you.
And gay fucking Navy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What is it that Quentin Tarantino calls it?
That's right, yeah.
A gay fucking fighting force.
Thanks, Quentin. There's 21 Bridges trailer.
Beating the Russians. Sorry, yeah. 21 Bridges. Did you see this? This is adjacent to Marvel a little bit. Yeah. So, Chadwick Boseman, Russo's, and it's a thriller, and they have to shut down New York. So I thought this might be. Did you see the trailer at all?
No, I didn't.
You should check it out. It's like cops getting killed, but it seems like a setup, and it's too clean. And Boseman seems like he's like a lead agent of some agency. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember. It's like FBI, CIA, DAA, something like that. And he comes in and he's like, something's not right about this. It's just a setup. Why would you do it this way? And so his directive is to literally cut all the bridges off to New York, because the only way they're going to figure out this thing. It doesn't explain why, but it looked like a really taut thriller. It could be awesome, could be like really middle of the road, but given the prestige of it and given the promotion it's getting, I think they're pretty confident with it.
Okay.
And considering, I think it was actually shot in New York as well. Could be interesting for you, especially as a big fan of New York, and
absolutely
looks really good. So definitely recommend it.
We'll go back to Taika Waititi, because we just can't escape him in this rundown today. The Jojo Rabbit trailer dropped as well.
It was a real short trailer. It was only a minute long. It was based off a book, if people don't know this. And he's playing Hitler.
Yeah.
And in a kid's imaginary version of Hitler in Nazi Germany. Or post-Nazi Germany. I'm not quite sure about that, actually.
Yeah.
But it's around that time anyway. And it's got a pretty interesting cast. There's some other big names. Scarlett Johansson's in there. Yeah. I have no idea what to expect.
No.
Chaos. Yeah. It looks like chaos. I think that's what I can say. And the kid actors look amazing. There's so many kids, and it looks like madness. I'll be interested to see more trailer-wise.
So that'll drop the next months as well. There was Zombieland Double Tap.
Mentioned it earlier as well, Zombieland. there was a joke about it because it's coming out just over 10 years after the original, and Emma Stone's like, if this does well enough, we'll just reunite in 10 more years and do another one.
Do 3.
The trailer looks alright, but I mean, it's a hard sell again. When Zombieland came out, it was already in this post-glut of zombie movies. We're now in a post-glut of zombie movies. It's really hard to look different. Zombieland managed it through style and casting. The cast has all returned, so that's a great indication. The writers have returned, the directors returned. Interestingly, the one thing I wanted to laugh about the most was, you've seen the trailer, right? I think, yeah. The very end of the trailer with the doubles.
That's right, yeah.
And I saw a tweet from Edgar Wright tweeting the scene from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
With the twin
Same
group.
sort of thing, yeah.
And I was like, I think, is this? He didn't say anything. He just posted that. It was around the time the trailer launched, and it just, like, I can't remember. He gave it a name. He obviously had a name for what scene was in Shaun of the Dead, and that's all he wrote. And I was like, I'm thinking that this is a point at Zombieland Double Tap, with the last scene where, like, all of a sudden there's two of each of these characters.
Yeah. Was it Luke Wilson and I can't remember who else comes out.
He's the guy from Silicon Valley.
That's right, yeah.
I've got his name's gone blank as well, but yeah, and I'm like, that was the first thing that popped into my head, so it was funny that I later saw that. It looks like it could be really funny, and it's going to have, if they're turning up in the trailer line, we know there's going to be star-studded cameos, there's going to be a bunch of people lining up. It seems interesting. There seems like there's parallel stories. They find a new survivor, but they've also got one of the characters has run off with a guy. Yeah, it'd be entertaining. If it's as funny and clever as the first one, I'll probably enjoy it, and I'm sure you will as well.
It'd be interesting to see if they mentioned the short-lived TV series as well.
I forgot about that. Yeah, there was the Amazon.
Like 6 or 7 episodes.
Yeah, it was like they made a half season and they didn't even release the whole lot, I don't think. So yeah.
So there was Little Monsters that I think you put down. I don't think I've seen this.
This is adjacent to zombies. What's her name? My God, my mind's gone blank. Lupita Nyong'o.
Yep.
She is like a famous TV star, and she's taking these kids on a safari trip, and was also she's just a teacher, sorry. And then there's Josh Gad playing a famous TV like celebrity guy, and he's supposed to be there, and it's like a big thing for the kids, and of course it turns out there's zombies, and she has to protect the kids along with like an inept park ranger, and it looks really silly. The trailer came out a few days ago. I'd seen a few reviews previously saying it's pretty good, mostly held up by its cast. But the trailer looked funny, and then I started reading some user reviews saying, don't ignore the mainstream reviews. This is a much funnier film than people are letting on. It's just the problem. It's another zombie film. But if you're willing to get past that point, it's very, very hilarious. It's funny. It's like a lot of scenes in that trailer are her trying to explain to the kids what's going on without letting them know what's going on. And one of the scenes, she's obviously gotten surrounded by zombies and she's got blood all over her, and she's like, oh, don't worry, it's just jam. And then she's like, but don't eat the jam. The jam's not good to eat. It was pretty funny. It looks alright, and Josh Gad looks like he's perfectly pitch cast because he plays this really fabulous entertainer, and then he turns out to be a real a-hole. So he looks like he's hamming up a storm and having a laugh. So check that trailer out and see what you think. I don't know when it's coming out here.
Yeah,
I think we talked about a lot of these are coming up very soon. But
there was also a new Gemini Man trailer, which I haven't seen because when I first saw it pop up, I just assumed it was the first one. So I haven't seen this new one.
It tells a bit more of the story. It has a bit more of a face-offy kind of thing. No pun intended whatsoever with that, actually, when I'm thinking about this. I'm not trying to adjust Ang Lee to John Woo there. It's just like there's a lot of scenes where the two Will Smiths, and they make a Will pun in one of the tags. You know, they always put those things on the thing. Yeah. I was like, oh my God. I was like, somebody's probably got a good pat on the back for that trailer.
Or showing the door.
No, I think they would have got a pat on the back. They wouldn't have used it if they didn't like it. And it is fun. It was when I saw it, I was like, that's so obvious, but good on you. It looks really good, and the stuff that Weta's doing with that de-aging on him is incredible. And unlike the first trailer, there was less kind of ropey shots. Yeah. So it was obviously further along in production. That's coming out very soon because I saw a poster for it the other day when I was at the movies. So it's not too far away. And I think it'll be entertaining. Action scenes look good, look solid. We'll see what the reviews look.
Yeah.
What we think.
And finally on our trailer list is The Irishman. And wow, what a big name cast.
Yeah, I mean, Scorsese's in charge of directing it. It's for Netflix. This has been gestating for a while. I'm a little bit unsure about the de-aging thing because they're doing the de-aging thing for this as well. Some of the shots are a little ropey. Maybe they're early, maybe they're unfinished. But it is a huge cast and obviously based loosely on actual... I think it's based loosely. It's not officially based on anything historic. It's reuniting, some stalwart actors and bringing Pesci back of all things. He hasn't done anything like this for years. So that's probably also impressive by itself.
Yeah, sure.
So it's coming out very soon, I think, as well. I don't have a date. I should have thought about this.
About December, I think.
I think it's
somewhere.
November, December.
Right.
So it's before the end of the year, I think.
Yeah.
So and so they're pushing it. So there'll probably be another trailer at some point for it. Our friend Brendan Skip messaged us and was very excited when he saw that.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't surprised.
I think he's definitely going to go out and see it.
Well, isn't it? I mean, I think it's getting theatrical release. He might be able to because I think it's getting theatrical release in the States and Canada. Here, I don't think it will just be straight to Netflix.
Yeah, quite possible.
Cool. That's all the trailers. Thank God.
That's
I mean, I
think.
think.
Yeah, well, for now.
Yeah. It was a lot.
We'll move on to the reviews. So we saw Far From Home.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit earlier on, and we'll probably just start with that point. I enjoyed it probably the most of all the Spider-Man films, live action wise, and as you made me think about, it's up there with the Spider-Verse film, and they both came out this year, so in the last several months. Honestly, the action sequences were some of the best I've had in any of the Marvel films, and that's not being lightly on it. It was shocking how night and day different they were. It's probably the best one since the Avengers, since Joss Whedon's Battle in New York. Just creative, inventive battle sequences with kinetic energy, fun, exciting, nice twists, nice inventiveness. This stuff with Mysterio was amazing. It was amazing. And then on top of it, great cast, very funny. Yeah. Legitimately funny.
And they all worked well together too. It's good.
Yeah. I was quite pleasantly surprised. I went in with the expectations that it would be good and came out going, well, that was really great.
Yeah. And there was just... It could almost be a film directed by M. Night Shyamalan. There was just so many twists in it as well. And, stuff that came out after the fact of certain things happened in the film that you might not have picked up on.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I could only recommend staying around for those end credits, man.
Yeah.
Far out. We've talked about it before, and I've talked with other people with the idea that, once we got past Endgame, what's going to keep people involved? Do they want to switch off the I'll have 23 films, I'm not doing another one, 22 films. Am I going to sit through a 23rd and then just have to care about more? But the end game, the outcome of that movie, definitely set up more interesting things, perhaps even more than the announcements that we went through earlier. Not that I'm not interested to see a Blade film or what's going to happen with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but the actual outcomes at the end of Spider-Man were legitimately weighty and they were very well thought out, and I enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it, and there's some real shockers. I think there's a few things that people could predict, and they did predict as well, but the way that they're done makes them better too. I think that's the other part of it. We talked about that a little bit, and I'm kind of avoiding talking for spoiler reasons, but the fact that they were done the way they do it, you were like, oh, that's a really clever way of how those things connect. Why that? Yeah, I totally can see how that would work. Very clever, straightforward.
Sort of sins of the father sort of thing.
You
can kind of say.
I want to avoid. I'm going to say this with a very mild spoiler warning. The one thing I could say that's wrong with it is that kind of problem, which is that even, and this is just more of a spoiler for Endgame, but even in death, Tony Stark is still creating villains.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I can say that I potentially maybe don't like about the idea, but other than that, it's not even that bad of a thing to say.
Yeah. Now, as a flat outing, was it all of us? It was all of us, or was it all but one or something? I can't remember. But anyway, we went out and saw Toy Story 4 as a collective.
Yep, that was interesting. It was instead all we ended up walking out was just hearing a lot of trash.
Yeah.
Trash.
Yeah, is the catchphrase of Forky.
Forky, the trash.
Yeah, and it's still a running joke even today.
It is. It was actually. It literally was today.
Yeah. We won't get into that now, but
I'll talk. I'm going to talk really briefly about it because I'm going to let you talk because you're a bigger Toy Story fan than I am. I thought to myself, someone said to me, this is the easiest way for me to say this. Someone said to me, didn't you think that Toy Story 3 was enough that you would have been happy if it finished there? And I said, yes. So they said, well, then what's the point of Toy Story 4? And I said, no, Toy Story 4 has a point, and it's a good movie, and it doesn't belittle or worsen the rest of the franchise. And I said, if that's the case, then it's a good movie as far as I'm concerned. And I went in there and I actually genuinely enjoyed it. It was entertaining, legitimately funny. Again, I think it's the funniest of all of them. There's right pathos, the right mentality, and the right ideas of where they want to take the characters, and they're all done really well. Some characters get a little bit less screen time than perhaps they should, but it's much. I know it sounds really weird, but in a toy sense, it's a much more personal story.
yeah.
And in that way, it needed to be what it was. Yeah, that's that. I enjoyed it. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Now, well, I went into it, with sort of, I won't say prior knowledge of the film as such, but I remember reading interviews saying that Tim Allen had come out and saying that be prepared with tissues for this because it's by far the saddest film. And, I think I said it last time when we talked about going to go see Toy Story 4, but I cried at the end of Toy Story 3, and I'll admit that. I don't care. You laugh at me all you want. But yeah, so at the end of this, I will admit there was a single tear, but I don't know whether it was because, this was potentially an actual ending for the sort of series of Toy Story, or, just because it was such a sort of a beautiful, happy sort of ending, one of those, happy cry sort of things.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I personally, if you ask me to say which one of them I thought was, I didn't cry at either of them. I'm not saying that because I'm being a hard ass. It doesn't. Animated movies just don't impact me that way. But I still feel pathos and sadness about it. Up got me pretty bad at the start. But if I had to pick one of the two, I actually think Toy Story 3 is definitely the sadder ending. Just because there's a bigger pathos as far as a human connection goes. Yeah. That's not to say that Toy Story 4 is not got a great ending. It does. It's just, and it's still sad in its own way. It's different. Yeah,
I kind of definitely think that it's because we kind of grew up with Andy, I suppose, in a way. Probably me more so than you. But, I sort of grew up at about roughly the same age as Andy in the first two. And then, granted, I was older when Toy Story 3 came out. But, I could still kind of relate.
You could relate, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's probably why that affected me more than probably this, where, I'm not that connected to the main character, per se. Or the human character.
I was going to say, that's the thing I think is the biggest difference. If I was actually to call this the correct title, that's it. This is the first film I legitimately would say is a Toy Story. Do you get what I mean? It's less about the humans. The humans are an important element to the identity of the toys, and that's a big running continual thing about the entire film. But it's more about the toys themselves. It's the first time they've really tackled, and this is the thing that makes the film.
Yeah, it's mostly toys interacting with themselves and not the humans interacting with the toys.
Which is where the cleverness of having the character like Forky is involved, where you start questioning what is a toy in this environment that they're in there, where they're self-aware and they have personalities and they're all different characters and stuff. What is a toy? What isn't a toy? What makes it a toy? And starts making this much bigger than Andy and the characters themselves. They've always kind of intertwined. This is more about the toys themselves and what it means to be a toy for a child and growing up. It still has the same things about growing up, but from an entirely different perspective. And that's the cleverest part about it. It's instead of making it a very obvious and direct sequel, they went, right, we can tell an adjacent story in a different way, but still have it connect wholeheartedly to what's already come. Which is I think is why I really enjoyed it. And I didn't even think about that at the time. I just enjoyed it on a face value to begin with. But the more I had time to sit down and think about it, I was like, wow, you know what, that's actually a really clever way of expanding your universe, and especially if it's going to be, as you said, the potential last film that they may do. Who knows? It's Disney.
7 years
it's
down
Disney,
there, we all of a sudden Toy Story 5, 6, and 7 are announced all at once. But for now, four ends where it is, pretty good ending.
Yeah. Now, you've seen The Lion King? Do we want to
It
talk
wasn't.
about that much?
Yeah, I will talk about it very briefly. I wasn't intending to see it. You know, we've talked plenty about how ridiculous it was, and I've now added towards its $1 billion title or whatever it is currently. I kind of said to someone I would go see it if they were going to go see it, and they did, and it was kind of to do a favor for someone else. It's a long story. And it's exactly what I thought. And but then I start denying that idea in my head. I'm like, right, did I go in thinking it was only going to be that, or was it just that? And the more I think about it, I'm like, no, it is pointless. It is utterly pointless, because it isn't better than the original. It doesn't make the original better. It doesn't tell a better story, a different story. It takes things away that can't be so cartoony and gives less emotive resonance to the things because the characters have to look more realistic. Visually, it's stunning. It's an amazing looking film. There is one shot in the film that is real. Everything else is CG, and you couldn't tell the difference. The visual effects work is incredible. It's really good. And the cast is fine, although I still have issues with certain ones we've talked about being replaced. If this was the first time you were doing the story, you wouldn't question it. You would be like, yeah, they're all perfect. Yeah. I still have bigger issues. I think I've talked about this with you, that they sing "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" during the day. That makes no sense to me whatsoever, especially when like the first line has the word twilight in it. It's like, oh, hang on, wait, it looks like it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, just needless. And this is again, this is the problem. The critical consensus says the same thing. They say fantastic looking but pointless. Audience goes, we don't care.
Yeah.
And that's fine. If that's what it's going to be, that's great. And then that and Aladdin are going to make $1 billion. And as I said, Mulan's probably going to end up making like 600,000. And we're always going to go, what the hell? Because that's what happened with Pete's Dragon as well. I didn't say before, is that Pete's Dragon, if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's amazing. And again, I'm not saying that because it was shot here in New Zealand and it's got some amazing cast in it. It's actually a legitimately good way of retelling a previously existing story in a way that is different. And it deserved to make more money than it did because of that. It deserved more of an audience, is more specific to that point. And The Lion King does not deserve that audience. It does not deserve that money. It's not cheap and tacky and it's a cash in. It's just needless and questions why you should bother in the first place. The resources could have been put into making a different film that would be much more worth its time.
Now, I haven't seen it, but I'll give a quick review of what my girlfriend Anne had seen. So she went with her mother and they were late to it. And in Anne's own words, she was disappointed because she missed what she calls the best part, which is the opening Nadsabenya song.
Nice.
As soon as you see the sunrise.
Yes. Funny enough, that's the only shot in the movie that's real, is the sunrise.
Well, there we go.
So you know.
So she missed out on that. She was also disappointed that the Scar song was shortened.
Yeah, it's basically a word poem, like a spoken word thing. It's got a bit of a chant. It's a bit musical, but it's not at all like the original. And I've already talked about Jeremy Irons not being involved. And
she was also disappointed that Timon's luau dance was not in it as well, because she really liked that from the original.
Yeah, she's not the only person who said that to me. There's a few people who said it. My issue with that is it doesn't, like I can understand, it doesn't fit. You can't have them acting that way in it. Yeah. But what they replace it with is just as stupid. Okay. So what they replace it with is a reference to Beauty and the Beast. That do it be my guest. Sense, yeah. Which is weird, because then they're like animals that are like real that are referencing a cartoon. My mind just...
Or like, referencing something that's potentially real in a weird universe.
It's odd. And this isn't the only thing. The reason why they did it, because I read the thing that Jon Favreau wrote, which was that I think Frozen makes a reference to another Disney movie in Frozen. I don't know which one he did say. And they were like, well, if they can do that, we can do it. And it makes... I get it too, because as a he's serving them up as a dish. Yeah. It kind of... I get it works. But they should have just been like serving them up as a dish. Don't make a Beauty and the Beast reference. Yeah. Like, just have him as a dish. Like, Yeah, it's weird. It's a very odd thing.
Yeah.
That sounds consistent. Like what she saw was what I was considered. I think her score was like, I think she wrote a score on Letterboxd was much more harsh than I gave it.
Yeah.
Because I still liked the technical achievements. I still thought that was okay. It just wasn't. It was and she was like, I don't think she specifically said it was like my childhood is crushed or something.
Yeah.
You know, like really disappointed with it.
No, you went and saw Hobbs and Shaw last night?
Yeah, I did.
Do we want to run through that quickly?
Yeah, I will. The more I've had time to think about it, I'm like, it's entertaining for all the right reasons, but like so needlessly pointless at the same time. It doesn't greatly further the Fast and Furious franchise if you even care about that as a concept. There was that news just recently that came out this week that the cast members of the Fast and Furious franchise can't be too out machoed by each other. They have to, like, if you get a shot in, I get a shot back, and nobody's really denied it, I think. And it seems so, seeing the movie after this came out, it seems so obvious. And yet, I think I've talked about this with you and other people, was like, and there was a quote from that same article about Michelle Rodriguez saying the women don't really care about this. And
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same.
Fight.
It's exactly the same with Hobbs and Shaw. Vanessa Kirby's absolutely amazing, and they just let her do whatever, and it's awesome. And Hobbs and Shaw can only they have scenes where they have to interplay with each other, and it's not even just the fights. They have to have the right quips,
Yeah.
and the right jokes, and the one-liners, and the reactions and actions, and they all have to line up. It works to its benefit but you can see where it's going, because the Fast and Furious franchise this later became is always about this idea of people coming together as a family, no matter what their backgrounds are. So in the end, of course, Hobbs and Shaw realize they have to work together in order to take down Black Superman.
Yeah, Idris Elba.
Brixton is his character, who is really good in it. He's a really good cast villain. I mean, Idris Elba's it's pretty hard to put him in a role and not have him charm his way out whatever he's doing. And so the casting is really good. But then there's a bunch of stunt casting as well, which I talked to you about when I got home last night from seeing this, or yesterday from seeing this. And I'm just like, it's unnecessary. Like, it was just pointless. Oh, here's Kevin Hart. Oh, here's Ryan Reynolds. I'm not even going to bother saying spoilers.
Yeah.
It's all over the internet. It's like, Rob Delaney, who is Peter in Deadpool 2, plays another agent that works with Ryan Reynolds' character, and it's like so obvious. I was like, oh, that makes sense. I put the two of them in together. The only joke was that, and I talked about this as well, is that a lot of these people have worked with the director, David Leitch, on John Wick, on Atomic Blonde, and on Deadpool. And so there's that crossover, and Eddie Marsan's another actor who's in it, who plays a character, and he was in both Atomic Blonde and Deadpool 2. So he turns up as a Russian scientist. So I was half expecting all of a sudden James McAvoy might turn up. Yeah. And I would have expected Charlize Theron if she wasn't already playing a character in the Fast and the Furious franchises that exist. But even that character could have turned up, and I wouldn't have been surprised. And ironically, thinking about it now that I'm just saying this, the overarching villain in this seems to have more of a connective tissue to what Charlize Theron's bad girl was in that movie, which was very tech based, and this company is all about like controlling media manipulation, wanting like to create a super like apocalyptic event to basically bolster the future of the human race. Yeah. For lack of a better term. And then on top of this, there's actually a big bad who's behind this organization who we don't find out who it is. Like they intentionally do it. They left it open. So it's set up so that they can either bring this back into the mainline story, or they can have it as its own spin-off franchise. Statham, you get what you get.
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson's Dwayne Johnson. You get what you get. You expect what you get. And they play off each other really well, and it's funny. And the action sequences are all okay. A little bit CG heavy in places. And going back to what we talked about previously as well, the trailers just showed way too much. Yeah. So, yeah. I wouldn't recommend going out and rushing out to see it. I literally went in and went, right, there's nothing else I want to see, and I need something kind of light. This week's been horrific with my flu and stuff. I just need something light to watch.
Get out of the house.
I need to get out of the house. And I thought that would be perfect, and it suited that entirely. If you're a Fast and Furious franchise fan, you're probably going to go see it anyway. If you have any passing interest, you'll probably go see it. Maybe not in the movies, but eventually. And you'll be entertained. You'll laugh, you'll cheer, you'll laugh some more, and then you'll cringe at a Ryan Reynolds joke. So, yeah.
Now, we mentioned it earlier because we just can't escape once again. But Akira, we both saw that recently with our friend Stephen.
Yes, and Anne came along, and Anne had never seen this, and you
I
never
hadn't
seen
it.
this.
No.
So, as I was saying, I don't think Akira's film was a live action film, and Anne was even like, for someone who's watched anime and knows sort of like manga backgrounds and that sort of stuff, she's just like mind fucked. She was just like, I don't know what happened.
No.
It is still a stunning piece of animation. 35 years. Is it 30 years? 35 years. I can't remember what it is. On. More than 30 years. 30 years on. Just stunning animation and worth its budget. And, like, that part has not aged poorly at all.
No.
But I can see why people are just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty insane.
I think for me, like, I was more blown away by just what they were able to achieve as opposed to, like, soaking in the story.
Yeah.
Like, for its time, like, it's just like, wow, they're somehow doing this. And it's way ahead of its time.
Thinking about, you're not doing it on computers and stuff like that. You're not dealing with it the same way. Some of those effects, even if you were to do it without computers now, you would be done the same way and it'd be very difficult. Like, that's the thing. And even doing it with computers may not be the easiest. So, its story is not as complex as it seems as well, I want to say. But if you're so focused on taking it all in, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think in that respect I was a little bit more shocked by Anne's response, just because I know some of the other stuff she's saying. I thought it would be more along. She might be like that, but also be like, it should be what I expect. These are the sorts of weird things that happen. These sorts of movies and shows and stuff. So I don't know. Yeah. What did you actually think? Like, how did you process it by the end? Like, what did you have?
Well, see, I'm still trying to process it in a way. I mean, after almost 2 weeks of seeing it, like, it's still, yeah. I thought it was going to go one way, but it completely didn't. And then I think by the end, I was just sort of, I don't know, confused as to still what was going on. With
it kind of ends
Akira, and then
it just kind of does end very oddly, but essentially ends with the idea that Akira's time and the time of what it's supposed to happen will happen. It's about making sure that the world is ready for evolutionary change, I think. But to me, the reason why I think it resonates nicely is I don't feel it's as dramatic. Post-apocalyptic in some respects. These big explosions are essentially that create these big craters throughout the two times in the movie previously, and then again near the end. It's not as like world-ending. There's hope in it, if that makes sense. There's like a future for the existence rather than like this is a bleak ending of humanity, that's the gosh, this is sounding like film. This is sounding like actual film fucking theory here. But you talk about like the characters in the thing who are like welcoming the coming of Akira is the idea of like the coming apocalypse. So like this world is gone and it needs to be cleansed essentially.
Yeah,
the zealots that follow. Whereas obviously that's not the point. The point is supposed to be waiting for a time of unity, essentially. If that makes sense. Together, yeah. Yeah, if that makes sense. And, but I mean, I'm sure there's probably billions of papers out there talking about you pick a particular scene and this means this and that means this and the way this character acted is this. And then when they changed this in the American version, the dub rather than the subtitles, that meant that it changed.
Yeah, it'll change again.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into the final parts of this episode, this very long episode now, looking at it, some sad news. We've lost a couple of great actors recently over the past month or so. We've lost Rip Torn.
Yep.
Of course, Patches O'Houlihan from Dodgeball.
Along with many other things.
Yeah, Men in Black franchise as well. We lost...
Freddie got fingered, as
Freddie got fingered, as we got told. Yeah, absolutely.
I did not recognise that at all.
And Denise Nickerson from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. She was Violet Beauregard.
That's right.
And also Rutger Hauer.
Yeah, Rutger Hauer was a big one. There was a lot of obvious comments made. One of the things I've seen Rutger Hauer in recently, and when I say recently, it was like it's 9 years, was it 9 years? 8 years old, was Hobo with a Shotgun. And he was so good in that movie. And I think it was like one of the last real big movie, like I don't say big, he's done other things, but like it was like one of the last main leading roles he did, and he was so good in that movie. And I kind of want to rewatch it now. And as I say to everyone, it's got one of the best puns ever committed to cinema in it. Was it Hobo quits begging, demands change, on a newspaper article. That's the one out of all of them that I think was probably the biggest impact. I mean, and you talk about with Blade Runner and everything, but I mean, I could go back through my film collection and just be like, oh, I could watch that, I could watch this, I could watch too many. Yeah. Nicholson was quite young, I was going to say, for Violet Beauregard. She's the first of the kids cast to have actually passed away, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Unless the other ones have maybe just passed away and they're just too obscure.
Too obscure, I don't think so. I could be wrong. I need to look that up. And obviously Rip Torn, just so iconic voice, such a commanding voice, and such an iconic actor. Very infamous for not getting the role. He was supposed to be an Easy Rider, and he ended up having a fight. Was it with Nicholson, I think?
Oh, wow.
I remember. He was sort of, big deal at the time, and would have changed his career path at the time had things gone that way. I can't remember what it was. I'm forgetting what the actual story, but something on that. But he became such an iconic character, especially with that voice, such a well-known voice,
sort of husky, gravelly voice.
Yeah, it's like at the same time. Yeah, very distinct. Yeah.
Finally, with all that out the way, we've finally come to films, but badly.
It's like I felt like I need theme music there or something.
Yeah, well, or something. I think a better title maybe.
I like the idea that it's badly. That's the whole idea, isn't it?
Yeah,
the idea
that makes sense. Yeah,
we're doing a shit. I was about to say shit job, but like a terrible job of it, and then it's a terrible title. That I thought that was kind of the idea, but all right.
Yeah, I suppose it works now.
If someone wants to write him with a better title, or if Ryan can think of a better title, then I had nothing. I literally went, because when you were describing the idea of it, I was like, so you mean it's like films, but like explained badly? And you were like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, okay, so it's films but badly. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's just kind of stuck. So if you can think of something better, let us know.
Sorry. Who goes first this time? I can't remember.
Rock, paper, scissors? Or I don't know.
I'll go.
Okay, righto. I'll go. Why not?
So well organised.
I suppose rock, paper, scissors doesn't really work on an audio only.
He picked scissors. I picked scissors too.
Let's go again.
Oh look, both paper.
Oh, all right. Here we
That's
go.
a mighty commanding rocker there. Yeah.
Spaceman comes and ruins a cowboy's town.
Space. And ruins the Cowboys. Oh, it's Toy Story.
It is Toy Story.
Yeah.
It's too easy.
If we hadn't just been talking about Toy Story, I probably wouldn't have got that so quick. But I'm thinking like, Cowboy, Spaceman. Oh, that's Toy Story.
I was kind of hoping you may have gone like Cowboys and Aliens, sort of down that route.
That's true. That is always a possibility.
Yeah, I suppose in a way that was kind of too easy.
It was a little bit too easy. A very long angsty walk just to see a body.
Stand By Me.
Damn it.
Didn't even start the timer.
I didn't even start the timer. I
didn't need it.
I didn't need it. If I hadn't said the body thing, I was like, what can I put at the end that makes sense? And I was like, I can't really say that it isn't for nothing, because it isn't not for anything.
Well, it's kind of what they go to as well.
It is the whole point.
It's the main plot point.
Damn it. I was hoping you wouldn't be that quick on it.
It just popped in there too.
It was real quick. Yeah, I didn't even start the timer. If I had, it would have been like a second.
Right, so a girl who's sick in her bed is trying to be cured by a churchgoer.
Oh, that's The Exorcist.
Ah, damn it. That was 2.5 seconds.
If that, because it was probably about the same time that you
got Stand By Me, yeah. Oh, man.
Maybe we're just too tired for this. Like we're just like, let's go with this kind of makes sense, but not really quite sense.
So this movie showcases the best way to succeed while supposedly being about not how best to succeed.
Oh. I kind of want to say Wolf of Wall Street.
You are correct.
Ah.
Well done.
I was actually going to say that or what's the Sheen movie?
Wall Street.
Wall Street, yeah, just Wall Street.
That's Wall Street. Yeah. That was really good. I'm glad you picked that. I wasn't sure if that was going to work. Yeah, really controversial about how successful that was.
What was your one word that you were going to say?
Quaaludes.
Yeah, I probably would have got that. It probably might have taken longer.
Yeah,
but...
it would have. That's what I was thinking. I was like, it's a little unfair. I just was like, that's such the iconic scene in that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of iconic scenes in that movie. I did not realize you hadn't seen it, so very good.
Right, I think I've got it.
Okay.
Right. A woman has intercourse with a man who dies to create a leader of the future.
Well, it's Terminator.
Ah, damn it!
Nice try. It doesn't. I think it doesn't help that two of these we've actually discussed somewhat.
Yeah,
this episode.
I suppose
It's kind of funny.
Doesn't help.
Doesn't help.
It's ironic as well, but it doesn't help.
So what's the scores before we do this, by the way?
3-2. 3 to you, 2 to me.
All right.
So we're looking for a tie.
I'm going to do this because it's funny. All right. I've got you 2 words for this.
All right.
Mind fucked.
Akira?
I'm sorry, it came out. I was like, I have to do it. I have to do it. It was too perfect. I was like, when I saw that and you'd had those 2 things we talked about, I was like, as soon as that came in my hand, I was like, that's perfect.
I have to.
I have to do it. I have to do it.
That ends that one in a tie on 3-3. I think that's probably a best or worst, depending on how you look at it.
It was almost a tie the first episode. We did this and I was at 3-2, I think it was. So that's right.
So I think
I gave you that one. I'm not,
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
perfectly fine with doing that. I think it was so funny. As soon as I put my hand in the bag and that came out, I was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm so doing that. Yeah, your Wolf of Wall Street was really good on that. I was really impressed with that, considering you hadn't seen that. There was one more that came out with Akira that I've jucked back in there that I know you haven't seen, but I could probably do.
Okay.
So if that comes up again, cool. That was awesome.
Yeah.
3-3. Well, I'm sure the people who are listening are like, "What are you guys doing? That was way stupid."
I know.
But hey,
We've been doing this for 2 hours. Leave us alone.
you're making a complaint about it now. You make it sound like we're causing ourselves issues or something.
Yeah.
For
There's been
2
too
hours.
much news come out and we've been sick.
We're sick as I'm just trying not to cough right now. Right. Well, I guess that's probably, hopefully.
Yeah, we've reached the end of that episode.
As always, we hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you again, as Ryan said earlier, for sticking along with us. It's been a lot to talk about, a lot of trailers, a lot of films, a lot of comic news, a lot of everything. I'm hoping that we'll get, once I get this turned around, and it'll be a much quicker turnaround for the next episode that won't be so big, and we can actually spend a little bit more time talking about the films, because this episode, the thing I've really liked is talking a little bit more in depth about some of the more nitty things that we don't normally get to talk about. We spend so much talking about news, and having those few moments has been really good. So hopefully that's been worth also listening to, and some from all the news stuff that we were talking about. But as always, if you can share, like, comment, subscribe, all the usual guff, we much appreciate it, and just let other people know. We're slow to getting and following, it seems, so it's just really nice, and it's the more people that share it and talk about it, and hopefully it's a laugh too. It's kind of the whole point. Just us gas bagging weird stuff. So I'm just going to say thank you, and we'll catch you next time.
See you.